Previously on Camp Gagnon.
NAMBLA is the North American Man-Boy Love Association, a group of adult men that are sexually attracted to boys.
And today he is back in the tent to tell us about how he got his start in the FBI.
The phone rings, Debbie knocks on the door, and I said, Debbie, we're gonna be spies.
Some of the most dangerous and terrifying missions he ever went on, specifically Operation Smoking Dragon, in which he took down a Chinese international crime syndicate.
So that's when the big guy comes over from Hong Kong. So I said, what did he just say about Jimmy? And she goes, oh, he say Jimmy gonna be killed.
They're willing to kill Jimmy. Why aren't they willing to kill you?
I didn't even think about that.
This is an absolutely fascinating episode that shows the inner workings of how the FBI actually takes down crime in America, as well as photos that have never been shown to the public before. So sit back, relax, and welcome to camp. Bob Hamer, how are you, sir?
I'm a little nervous, but I'm here, so.
Don't be nervous. I've dealt with a lot of nervous people, okay? I'm sure you have as well, as an undercover guy. You have an absolutely fascinating story and a crazy life. I just want to give people a little preview of what they can expect. 26 years in the FBI. You have pretended to be a drug dealer, a contract killer, a burglar, a international weapons dealer, white-collar criminal. We might have to bleep this one out. Pretended. You have infiltrated and gone undercover to take down basically every gang in existence. You name an ethnicity, that gang, Russian mafia, Mexican cartels, Sicilian Cosa Nostra, everything, even the NAMBLA case. You've done a lot of crazy things. You've dealt with a lot of crazy people, and you've pretended to be many, many different people in order to do your job. So I'm curious, just as a starting place, can you tell me, how did you get involved in the FBI and what drew you to doing undercover work?
You know, thanks for having me on the show. I got to tell you, I am a little nervous because I listen to your show and you do a great job.
Oh, thank you so much.
And so I'm a little concerned. You probe pretty deeply with your questions. So
I'm a prober.
Yeah, you're a prober.
Careful.
I've heard that. Yeah, I spent 4 years on active duty in the Marine Corps, and I was a judge advocate. I was a lawyer. I don't really tell too many people this, but I didn't like it. I grew up, I'm old, I grew up in the Perry Mason generation. I assumed everybody was innocent. And at some point during the trial, the guilty person comes running in and says, I did it. Well, in the Marine Corps, everybody was guilty. And it was all a matter of, is the confession admissible? Is the evidence sufficient? It was never a whodunit. And I had roughly 150 trials, everything from unauthorized absence to murder, but I hated being in the courtroom.
And so these are Marines that are killing other Marines that you had to...
you know.
Oh, wow.
And that. So it was post-Vietnam, right? I came on active duty in 75, so I actually enlisted in 70, but the Marines were pulling out of Vietnam, and then they said, you know, finish college and you can be an officer. And then they said, hey, we're short 110 lawyers. Have you ever thought of going to law school? And I said, yeah. And I said, well, go to law school. We won't bother you. And then you come on active duty as a judge advocate. So from that standpoint, I finished my law school. I was licensed to practice. I go on active duty and I'm doing these trials. And it just, the courtroom had no excitement for me. It wasn't what I expected at all. And literally one day I was stationed at Camp Pendleton out in San Diego. I was reading the LA Times, the sports section, and there's an ad. The CIA was looking for case officers. And I'm honestly thinking this has got to be a joke. I mean, the CIA, they go to Harvard and Yale, and some guy opens up his coat and say, buddy, you want to be a spy? And it was like, no, they were advertising for case officers. So I responded to the ad. The next thing I know, I'm told to report to 660 Front Street, which is the federal building in San Diego. Anybody that's down knows it's the red brick building down there. I go down, I walk into this room, about twice the size of your studio. There are 2 chairs, no other furniture. This guy walks in and he's got a scar from ear to ear. And I'm going, holy crap, this is the excitement I'm looking for. I mean, this guy's got stories to tell. And I'm thinking back, he probably got hung up in the clothesline playing flag football as a kid, but I just think it's exciting. So we have the interview. I can't tell you anything else about him but this scar, and it probably was a fake scar just because that's all I was focused on. I mean, you've had criminals on your show. You know, the best disguise for a bank robber is to wear a Band-Aid on your nose, and everybody says, I don't know what colored hair, but he has a Band-Aid on his nose. You know, they focus on that. So next thing I know, I get plain bond stationery. You've passed the initial assessment. And this is long before 9/11. They say, we want you to fly back to Washington, D.C. Do not tell anybody what you're doing. Pay cash for everything and fly under an assumed name. So I'm like, yeah, okay, this is that James Bond stuff. I'm excited about this. So I don't tell my wife what I do. I'm not telling the Marine Corps. I tell the Marine Corps that I'm taking a few days leave. I tell my wife I'm going back to D.C. for some Marine Corps business. I go back. They're giving me all these tests. I'm meeting at kind of a safe house. I'm not going to Langley yet. I'm going to these buildings. They're testing me on geography, current affairs, language aptitude tests and everything. And I finish up, fly back to Camp Pendleton. I'm back in court doing trials. And next thing I go, another letter, plain head stationery. I fly back to D.C. again, not telling anybody. I get back there, and we get done with those interviews, and the guy at the end of the day says, you can tell your wife, but nobody else what you're doing. And so I go back home, and I said, Debbie, we're going to be spies. I said, here's what I'm doing, and I'm really excited. And I'm really not that cool, and I'm not a big connoisseur of everything, but that night we went to eat at a French restaurant because we figured, okay, we better start getting international if we're going to be spies. And now I go back the third time, same thing, but I tell my wife what I'm doing this time. I still don't tell the Marine Corps. I go back the third time, and I pass a polygraph test. I mean, I'm at Langley now, so this is getting serious. And then one of the tests they gave me was a psychological profile. And in that test, they scored you from a 0 to a 10. The psychologist comes in, he looks at me, he looks at my test results, and he goes, I have never seen a 0 personality. And to this day, my wife reminds me to put down the toilet seat and that I'm the only person ever declared a 0 personality by the federal government. So at the end, the CIA passes. They didn't want 0 personality in the case officer program. They kind of wanted 3s and 4s. So they wanted you to be able to sidle up next to the diplomat from a third world country,
a chancellor somewhere, kind of schmooze him, which you could have done.
Well, I think so, because eventually I did.
What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because I'm coming on the road. That's right. Pottstown, PA, Friday, November 8th, 2024. I'll be at Soul Joel's. You can come see me do 1 hour of stand-up comedy, nothing more and nothing less. It's going to be an amazing time. And if you're not near Pottstown, don't worry, because I'm coming to Stamford, Connecticut. I'm going to New York Comedy Club. That's right. They have a bunch of amazing clubs in the city and also an amazing one in Stamford, Connecticut, November 13th. If you want to come hang out, come hang with me, say what's up. I'll be talking to everybody after the show. We'll be doing an hour of comedy, guys. Stand-up comedy. It's my passion. It's what I love to do when I'm not inside this tent. So come kick it with me. Bunch of crazy stories. We'll have a great time. You can find the link at my Instagram. Get it in the story. I'll put it in the description. I can't wait to see you guys there. Let's get back to the show. Hey guys, really quick. Did you know that on this day in history in 1582, Pope Gregory introduced the Gregorian calendar, which most of the world still uses today? Or that in 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite, into orbit. This event triggered the space race between the USA and the USSR. I learned these facts pretty recently, actually, on the S'more Camp newsletter. That's right, S'more Camp, the inner sanctum. For this kind of show, we do a ton of research. I have different researchers and friends that help me find information, and not everything can make the episode. Either it's like too crazy, it's too like weird or gory, and it will get demonetized on YouTube, or it's just additional and it doesn't always make it, but it always makes it into the S'more Camp Inner Sanctum newsletter. So if you are interested in expanding your mind, learning new information, and being the most interesting person into every room you step into, check it out in the description or this QR code right here. Now let's get back to the show.
So I ended up, the CIA passes. In the meantime, I'd applied to the FBI I had passed the oral exam. I'd passed the written exam. I was on the list to go to Quantico, Virginia, which is where they have the FBI Academy, and they had a hiring freeze. So I'm getting out of the Marine Corps. It's a 4-year commitment. They won't let me change my MOS, my military occupational specialty. So I can't become something. I can't become an intelligence officer, an infantry, or anything like that. They say, if you want to stay in, you got to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer. So I'm getting out. The CIA doesn't like me for my personality. The FBI is on a 1-year hiring freeze. I interviewed for a job in Los Angeles. To this day, I can't tell you what that job is. I don't even remember.
A Blockbuster video? Something like that?
Yeah. I turned on my zero personality, and the guy hired me. And Mark, it is literally Monday, and I'm getting out on Friday. And I won't say Debbie and I had an argument, but I slept on the couch that night, and I prayed to God. And I said, God, you know we tied. You're going to get more money if I take this job in Los Angeles, but I really wish the FBI or the CIA would call. I swear this is true. I promised you at the beginning I would not lie on this podcast. I'm sitting on the John where I do my best reading. The phone rings. Debbie knocks on the door, and she says, it's for you. And it's the FBI. I finish my paperwork. I rush to the phone. I pick it up, and they said, are you still interested in the FBI? And I said, yes. They said, well, we had someone drop out of our next class. Can you be back in Quantico in 30 days to begin a career in the FBI? And yes. So that began my career in the FBI. And I will say, I'm not here to preach, but throughout my career, when I had the really tough times, I just remembered that when I prayed, he answered those. He needed a zero personality in the FBI. And so in some of the really difficult cases, I just kind of thought, there's a reason why I'm here. I'm not sure what it is, but there's a reason why I'm here, and it got me through. So as you mentioned in the introduction, I spent 26 years in the FBI, much of that undercover and much of that. I always say my favorite class in college was deviant behavior. And so I either arrested everybody we studied in that class, or I portrayed everybody we studied in that class.
Wow. You might be the only person ever to be happy to get a call from the FBI. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like normally when someone's wife is like, the FBI is calling, it's never good.
Yeah, no, tell them I'm not here.
You were excited.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you probably didn't even wipe. You were like, let's go. You just ran straight out.
Probably not. Now that I think about it, I don't remember. So
that was the moment. What's that famous, I think it was a Denzel quote, I think, in that movie. The two most important days of a man's life.
Oh.
The day he's born and the day he finds out why.
Yeah, Mark Twain.
That was the day you found out why.
Yeah. In terms of the FBI, that was the day I found out why I was in the FBI.
Wow. Okay, so
you say Denzel, so it's like I want to be Robert McCall, Denzel Washington, Equalizer cool. When I grow up, that's always who I want to be. And throughout my career, I was kind of closer to Don Knotts than I was.
Well, I would want to know kind of where you want to take this. So tell me, what is the highest profile case that you did in your 26 years? And we can go through all of them, but I just want to start with the one that you find the most thrilling.
Well, I have to say, toward the end of my career, and just so the audience knows, this isn't TV. I mean, in the FBI, the supervisor doesn't come out to the squad bay and say, hey, we need somebody to play a contract killer today. Who wants to do it? And you raise your hand. I mean, in the Bureau, they carefully select the undercover agents. Now they have a very difficult, not every agent wants to be undercover, but those who do have to go through several interviews. And then there's a pretty intense 2-week selection process. The Bureau wants you to think it's like BUD/S training, but it's not. But like the last class they had, only half the students were selected. You know, they washed out half of them. And that's about, now with their undercover program, about half of them wash out.
And what would preclude someone from being an undercover agent?
In terms of the training, it's the inability to either think on your feet or to lose your cool, I'm not sure.
Because you always got selected.
Well, I mean, I was sort of grandfathered in, but now, yeah, they look for things. I talk to undercover agents now, to classes, and it's not Miami Vice. You don't go in there trying to be cool and beat up the guy, verbally assault him and everything. For the most part, that doesn't work. And one of the reasons you don't want to look worse than the bad guy in front of the jury. So, I told you before we started, I'm the Forrest Gump of FBI undercover agents. I mean, I have had a fascinating career, but I'm not a smart man. And I play stupid really well. So
almost too well.
Yeah. But you as the undercover agent, you don't want to come off as a know-it-all. You want to come off as, what is it? We'll get into the details, but like in this case that we're going to talk about, Operation Smoking Dragon. At one point, one of the targets of the case brought me ecstasy. Now, up until that time, I have purchased millions of dollars of heroin and cocaine. I'd never seen ecstasy. So rather than trying to be cool and saying, oh yeah, man, the party drug, I know this. It's like, what is this? And she goes, oh, this is what we call candy. This is E, this is ecstasy. Well, where do you make it? Oh, it's made in Amsterdam. I told her, do you smoke it? What do you do? No, you take the pill. So, you get into court and it's like, no, I didn't force her to do it, but it's clear to the jury that she knew what she was talking about. She couldn't come in and say, oh, I thought they were Tic Tacs and that's why,
Yeah, he said it was candy, so I said it was candy. Yeah, the more cool you try to be and the more suave and, oh, I know what this is, you're leaving too much unsaid. And when it comes in front of a jury or into a court, you can't go by off what's unsaid. You have to go by off what is said.
Exactly.
So you being able to kind of play a little coy is able to draw out much more information. And I'm sure that's why many of your cases end up getting prosecuted. And you got convictions on most of them. So I'm curious, can you take me through Operation Smoking Dragon? What is that?
Yeah. Okay. So,
and before you actually go, I just want to set it up. Could you explain what is the crime that's happening? What are you kind of hearing? What is happening, in the underground black market? And then when you step in, what is your mission?
Yeah. So in this particular case, first of all, this is after 9/11. So the Bureau on the East Coast and the West Coast is concerned about what's coming into our ports. How do we know? I mean, are terrorists coming in? Are nuclear weapons? Are biological weapons? Are these kind of things coming into our ports? Because, and it's still true today, they only examine a small percentage of what's coming through, of the containers that come through. And, you're in Florida, you're in New York, you see the ports, you see all these containers.
Thousands.
If you're from Iowa, you don't appreciate the fact that there are thousands and thousands of containers that are coming through every day, every hour. So the Bureau was concerned about what was coming through. The Bureau also knew that there were counterfeit cigarettes coming into the country on the East Coast and the West Coast. And these cigarettes are filtering down to mom and pop grocery stores, some of which were owned by people that were supporting terrorism. So the proceeds from these cigarettes, these counterfeit cigarettes, are going to pay the terrorists overseas, finance terrorism overseas. So at least in Los Angeles, we were kind of going after the snake. We were going after the head of the snake, the people that are bringing the cigarettes in. We're going after the tail of the snake, the mom and pop grocery stores that are using the proceeds to finance terrorism. Now, fortunately for me, I got to go after the head of the snake, and I wasn't wiping butt, down there in the mom and pop grocery stores. And I don't smoke, so I can't tell you. And I actually thought about yesterday going into some place and seeing how much a pack of cigarettes costs. But back when I was active on this case, a pack of cigarettes might cost $5 or $6 a pack, at least in California. Well, you could get a carton of counterfeit cigarettes for $8 or $9. So you've got 10 packs to a carton, and essentially that one pack for the less than 2 packs of real cigarettes, you're getting 10. So the proceeds it's greater than drugs, and no one was really working it. I mean, we have ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives, but they were busy doing a lot of other things. And the FBI, part of their mission is organized crime. So we had this organized criminal syndicate that is bringing in the counterfeit cigarettes.
And so can you explain kind of how that black market proliferates? You have counterfeit Marlboros being created in China and North Korea.
Yes.
And then they're packaged and they look identical, and I'm sure probably feel the same as American Marlboros. And then they're put into big shipping containers and shipped to the United States. Who's receiving them? And then how do they proliferate to the grocery stores?
Okay, so if we had a pack of real Marlboros and the counterfeit Marlboros, you couldn't tell the difference. The packaging is identical.
That's this photograph here. We can put it up on the screen. But that's
those are counterfeit. So you couldn't tell the carton whether it was real or counterfeit. You couldn't tell the individual pack whether it was real or counterfeit. You couldn't tell the master case in which 50 cartons are in there. But the tobacco was different because the tobacco they were using was either grown in North Korea or China. The tobacco we use, North Carolina, Virginia, Kentucky, wherever they happen to.
So smokers could taste the difference.
The smokers could taste the difference. Now, what was somewhat ironic on the West Coast, and I don't know on the East Coast, but the Asian community, the smokers, preferred the coolness of smoking Marlboros because that was considered the elite of over in China. You were really cool if you smoked Marlboros. So you smoke Marlboros here, but they preferred the taste of the Chinese tobacco.
That's so funny.
You had sort of two different groups. You had the Americans that were going into the store and buying the cigarettes and thinking, oh, this pack doesn't taste very good. I'm going to throw it away and get another pack. And then you ended up getting real cigarettes because the merchants, they wouldn't do, the little mom and pop grocery store wouldn't do the entire thing in counterfeit cigarettes. They would put 2 in a stack of 10, 3 in a stack of 10. So
you kind of cut it.
At some point, you're getting a sort of a bad pack.
So now how does it work? Is there a gang in America that's receiving these shipments?
Yep.
And the gang was called what?
Well, they were sort of, it was a criminal syndicate that didn't have a name, but there were people underneath that all worked. We got, I was introduced to the top importer of counterfeit cigarettes on the West Coast. So that was my introduction. What happened was, as I kind of alluded to, not everybody works undercover. You're sort of in I guess you could say there's a Rolodex. Your listeners may not even know what a Rolodex is, or your listeners are too young. There was, your name's written undercover with what you look like, what your abilities are, your experiences. My particular case agent called the undercover coordinator and said, I'm looking for an older white man that can work an Asian criminal syndicate. So they contacted me. It turned out that they had an informant who was Chinese. He was working off of beef. He was going to get deported. He was trying to stay in the United States. And he told my case agent, here's the top importer of counterfeit cigarettes. This top importer doesn't really trust other Asians. He trusts older white people. So that's how I got selected. I met with the informant twice. Honest to Pete, Mark, I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. I can't even tell you his name. I mean, not that I'm trying to conceal his identity. I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
But we ended up meeting at a restaurant in Los Angeles. I'll give a plug for the restaurant, Cafe Roma. I have taken mob guys there. I've taken there. Cafe Roma doesn't know who I am. But the first time I ever went there undercover, I ordered capellini puttanesca. And I was like, boy, that tastes really good. Well, the next time I went in with a bad guy, I'm looking at the menu, and capellini puttanesca is not on the menu. And I just told the server, I said, you know, still do capellini puttanesca? Oh, he'll make it for you. So it was like from then on, I would go in. So I'm taking you, you know, you don't know, you think I'm somebody else. We go in there and, you know, Mark's going to have the pizza. You know, tell him I'll take the capellini puttanesca. I know it's not on the menu. He'll fix it for me. Oh, yeah, of course. He'll fix it for you. So
all of a sudden now I'm like, who's this guy?
So now I'm cool because, and I have to tell you, Cafe Roma is next to the cigar bar where Arnold Schwarzenegger used to hang out. Well, maybe he still does. Sylvester Stallone. I mean, you had famous guys coming in and out of cigar bar, eating at Cafe Roma. So it had this whole atmosphere, and you would have the paparazzi running around, and it sort of added to my image, whatever my image was. So I take the Chinese guy, John Seto. I take him.
That's the informant?
Yeah. No, that's the bad guy.
Oh, I see.
I take him.
When you're with the informant, how can you trust that the informant is giving you good information?
You can't.
Do you vet it out?
Well, you hope the case agent does. I mean, it all depends on the informant, the case, what his history is. I mean, in this particular case, if he would have screwed us, I mean, assuming I wasn't going to get killed, if he was going to screw us, he was going to jail, and you know he was going to prison. So you have to assume he's telling you the truth. Your case agent is responsible for doing sort of the backstory, finding the history of both the informant and the target. I mean, it's not like the informant's going to say, okay, I need to take you into this podcaster, and you know, who's a podcaster? You know, we'll just take you into the podcaster. You know, it's like, okay, well, let's find out who Mark Gagnon is. Let's find his background. Let's listen to some of his podcasts. Let's make sure that this is legit. Okay, now we'll bring in the undercover agent. So you kind of rely on that, but again, it's almost like you in an audience. You play the audience. You feel the audience. If they're not laughing at this line of jokes, maybe you go this direction. So that's how it works. I wasn't worried in this particular meeting that something was going to happen. And if he bought my act, he bought my act. If he didn't buy my act, then the case agent has to regroup and decide what else. In this particular case, the informant, when I sort of gave him my backstory, he said, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what my guy would be looking for.
Okay. So now tell me, what is your cover? And then what is that first meeting with the bad guy?
Okay.
And how do you kind of set that up? And what are you trying to get out of him?
So one of the things when I talk to young kids, to young agents that are trying to get in the undercover work, first of all, you don't talk too much, which I know I'm probably talking too much, but it's the podcast and you want me to talk.
Yes.
So you let the bad guy do most of the talking if you can. I had one particular case where I was dealing with a guy that was literally had the biggest ego in the world. I mean, I've got a huge ego, but this guy's ego dwarfed. I mean, I was dwarfed compared to him. It was huge. And I called him Dr. D, the doctor of drugs. And I just want to sit at your feet and learn everything I can. He was an international heroin dealer. I just want to sit at your feet and learn everything. So he would pontificate for hours. And I had one case where one day, one meeting, I just decided how long I could go without saying a word. And he literally talked for 3 pages, single space. And I just kind of looked at him and, you know, I was like smiling and acting shocked and just to see how long I could go and let this guy talk. And you do that, undercover agent, for 2 reasons. One, you let him do all the talking if you can, because it looks better to the jury. You're not playing Don Johnson in Miami Vice. And 2, sometimes you got to do the transcripts. So you don't want to sit there and talk about, oh, gee, how about them Dodgers? Let's, let's go through all this BS. And now you've got to sit there and transcribe it. So with John, with this guy, I just explained that I was the older male. At this time, I was somewhat handicapped. You have doctors that listen to your show. This makes no sense, but I had osteogenetic osteomyelitis that resulted in spondylolisthesis, which makes absolutely no sense, but it kind of gives headaches to anybody that's trying to transcribe the tapes to spell out all the.
I thought that was Mandarin. I thought you were speaking Mandarin for a second.
Yeah. But I had an arm crutch, and so it was handicapped, and we'll get into it later. But I started this with my NAMBLA case because in NAMBLA, where I was posing as, I just kind of thought, you look like a cop, you smell like a cop. How can you get away with this? So it's like I started using the arm crutch, and I just thought that's not a bad little gig. So I used the arm crutch, and it worked out well because then you don't have to do any heavy lifting when you got osteogenetic osteomyelitis with spondylolisthesis. And
yeah, people look at you just like, oh, what a poor guy.
Poor guy.
This is like in court. Sometimes they'll have like criminals that'll go into court and they'll give him a walker, they'll give him a cane, and they'll look decrepit. And it's like, oh, this guy couldn't have killed 10 people. He's an old man. So you going you've
got the defense counsel there wiping the slobber off his mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I go in. Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War, says, "Pretend you're weak so that the enemy might grow strong." So if you pretend you're weak, then they are trying to take advantage of you, as opposed to, again, I hate to keep coming back to the Miami Vice thing, but instead of you coming on gangbusters, you let them pretend you're weak. Let them do this. So my deal was that my grandfather had died. He had a fairly sizable estate. I had a trust account. I lived off the trust account. I had some property that I owned, and one was a warehouse out in Pomona, California. Anyone's familiar with Southern California? It's east of Los Angeles. We had this warehouse set up, so we had the offices wired. We had the cameras in the warehouse and everything, and my story was, look, I have people coming in and out of my warehouse all the time. If you want to bring your containers of cigarettes, you can store them here. Nobody knows. And part of my sales pitch was that I've got a couple guys that I know that work the ports, customs, and everything. Obviously, we were working with customs, or they were cooperating with us. And when the stars line up, when my 3 guys are working the same shift, then I can get your containers through. So a container a 40-foot container of cigarettes, they're investing about $250,000. They're making much, much more than that. But with that, if that does get seized, now they're out $250,000. And they were finding that roughly maybe 1 out of 10 of their containers was getting ripped off or, discovered, and they were losing it. So our deal was, and my case agent and I just talked about it, and we set up the deal for $60,000. We can, when it all lines up, we can get your container through the port. So we're bringing the containers in. Customs knows it. They're letting them go through, and now we have control of the cigarettes, and they're coming to our warehouse. Now, sometimes they brought their own containers to my warehouse because my deal was, I have the warehouse, I can protect your cigarettes in my warehouse, and then I have access to long-haul truck drivers that can transport your cigarettes all across the country. And of course, our long-haul truck driver was an undercover FBI agent. Right.
Now, he's not suspicious of this? Because this deal seems too good to be true. This one guy comes in and solves all my problems.
No, because, well, no, because he dealt with me.
He went for it.
He went for it. And what happened was he did that with that meeting, after we got done with that meeting, I think the decision was made, because it took a month before I heard from him again. And I think there was discussions about, okay, what do we do? Let's try him. Let's take the chance. Let's try him for one container. And what really happened on this container, they bring the container in, they get it through the port, they bring it to my warehouse, and now my long haul truck driver transports it to Allentown, Pennsylvania, where Russian mob guys are working and bringing them into New York City to distribute the cigarettes in New York City.
Actual Russian mob guys.
Our intelligence was, two of these guys were former Russian intelligence officers that were working in Allentown.
Like former KGB.
Yeah, KGB, military intelligence, whatever.
That are now like mob? Like,
yeah, when the wall came down, when the Soviet Union broke up, a lot of those intelligence agents that worked for the Soviet Union became criminals. They used their intelligence, their smarts. They left Russia, they came here, and they set up here, and so they started dealing in these counterfeit cigarettes.
Wow.
That night was. Let me back up. So we bring the container in. It had snowed that day. The weather was horrible. We finally get it in. We get it delivered to their warehouse. And I'm old. I have to go to the bathroom. So there's no other car, because it snowed at this storage facility. There were no other cars parked there but 2 cars. And I knew from our FBI agents in Philadelphia what the one guy's car was. So I get out of the car, handicap, walk out of my rental car, walk over to his car, unzip my pants, and I urinate all over the guy's front tire. And all of a sudden they come out. What are you doing? I said, oh man, I'm sorry, man. I got prostate issues, and I just had to take a pee. And so now my truck driver shows up with the cigarettes. So they unload the cigarettes.
What? And did you pee on his car on purpose?
Yeah.
Well, why?
Because it was there.
Like, what is this a mind trick, or is this just you having fun?
Yeah, kind of. Well, I'm chasing the adrenaline dragon, so it's like I got to get the adrenaline flowing. So what can I do to screw with them? I mean, I enjoy screwing with it. We can get to this, but I love playing music in the car. So I got the bad guys in the car, and I'm playing Folsom Prison Blues, Jailhouse Rock. I mean, if it's got a prison theme, I'm playing it in the car, and you got the bad guys rocking to the thing. We'll get into the weapons deal in this case, but at one point, I've got one of our main targets who set me up with the guy who set me up with the Chinese generals on this $60 million shoulder fire missile deal. Every time he got into my car, my undercover car, which was about 6 or 7 times, I had it cued to Charlie Daniels' song, Uneasy Rider. And the first line you hear on every tape, on every consensually monitored tape is, "Don't you know this man's a spy? He's an undercover agent for the FBI." So,
what? This is not a part of the brief. This is just you fucking with him.
Oh yeah. You're
an insane person.
I just love screwing with them.
I almost wonder if that like lowers their defense, because you're doing something so blatant, like so crazy, that they're just like, oh, there's no way this guy's a Fed because he's playing the Fed song. Like, what are the odds that this guy would do that on purpose? Yeah. Turns out 100%.
My friend of mine, another FBI agent, we were the first 2 FBI agents to actually work black street gangs in Los Angeles, and then they set up a squad, and then we started doing it. But Tom and I were the first 2. And eventually we set up a buy program. So I've got longer hair, not as long as yours, but I have longer greasy hair, and I'm driving a beat up pickup truck, and I'm driving in South Central Los Angeles in the middle of the night buying rock cocaine from selected gang members. I mean, it's to the point that it'd be midnight and you got 8 and 10-year-old kids run up to your car trying to sell you drugs. And, it's like, get your ass out of here, bring me so-and-so. So, and one guy who was one of the top shot callers in the Backstreet Crips, we arrested him. We arrested 13 people in this first sweep. And he's sitting on the bench, cuffed. And I walked up to him. I said, Eli, you had to suspect a white guy coming down here to buy drugs. And he's cuffed and he lowers his head. And he's like, we figured, I talked to my own boys. We figured the police would be too stupid to send a white guy down here.
See, sometimes it's the people you most suspect. You know what I mean? If there's a white guy buying drugs, he's a cop.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and again, it comes down, I've always joked that I couldn't play my own self in the movie because you're going to have Chris Rock buying the drugs in South Central. You're going to have Jackie Chan targeting the Chinese. It just doesn't work, but it does work in the real world.
It's so obvious that there's no way, so they trust you.
It's okay. The more obvious you are, the less obvious you appear.
So then back to you're transporting these counterfeit cigarettes to Allentown. You pee on the guy's car. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
So now, as any of your smokers know, there's tax stamps on packages of cigarettes. So he gets this. All the cigarettes are delivered to his storage facility there in Allentown. Nothing's happened. You know, the cops aren't running in. The feds aren't rushing in to arrest anybody. He takes me back to this house in Allentown where there's 5 or 6 of these guys that are there affixing the counterfeit New York tax stamps onto the pack of cigarettes. And I always, as I talk to younger agents, that night we went to karaoke. And when Tiny, who is 6'4" and about 300 pounds, sings, you know, you always tell him he did a great job. You know, even, and it was like a scene out of that Rush Hour, you know, where the girls are singing the karaoke and it's horrible. It was kind of like that. But so my point is, those cigarettes get delivered and nobody gets arrested. I head back to LA and I'm golden. I mean, the container arrived in the United States. It was stored at my warehouse. It gets delivered to New York. The FBI has identified essentially a safe house where these cigarettes are going. We've identified some of these Russian mob guys, whatever you want to call them, that are distributing the cigarettes into New York. Now, at the time, I was told, I think a pack of cigarettes was going for like $11 or $12, and they're getting a carton for $8 or $9.
Yeah, so it's like 10x.
And nobody's working the case. So if you're a criminal, why would I even touch drugs? Why would I mess with that?
Yeah, I can make 10x. No one's looking into this. It's not really hurting anybody. It's like, if you're a criminal, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Wow. And so so take me through the money really quick. So how much would you have been paid, or how much did you get paid?
I still charge them $60,000 for that. So I charge
for the storage and the shipping.
Yeah. So my flat fee was $60,000.
Got it.
And we would use that. So now from the counterfeit cigarette standpoint, I'm limited to about 2 containers a month. That's customs is saying, look, we can't just be doing this and facilitating it. And what we did, we had to clear the packages through the CDC. So they had to, when these counterfeit cigarettes came in, my case agent would send samples to the CDC. CDC would test them and then come back and say, you know, they're no more carcinogenic than the regular cigarettes and they're not poisonous. So now they could go into commerce. But what we're doing now, we're following the cigarettes. So if they would send a box truck to my warehouse and we've got they load up 40 master cases into a box truck and they're hauling off down somewhere, we may be calling the highway patrol and saying, hey, here's a license plate, pull them over for a traffic stop or violation or something. They pull them over, they check, they seize the cigarettes. So occasionally we would deliver the entire 40-foot container to another warehouse. Well, then we would tell customs or somebody that this is where the cigarettes are. So they would go in and seize those cigarettes. Mark, for 3 years, I'm dealing with it that never comes back on me. They've never figured out that a lot of the cigarettes got through, but many of them didn't. And it never got through. There was one, again, it was just a fun time because so the containers are sealed. There's a little seal. It's just a small wire and it's on the lock so that it knows that it hasn't been tampered with. So when that container is delivered to your warehouse, you can see that the lock, the seal that was put on in China has not been tampered with. Well, we had to break the seals in order to test the cigarettes. So we would break the seal and then our guys would reseal it so that it didn't look like that there's anything wrong. So on the one container, when we broke the seal and we opened it up to take out the samples, I looked up and there was kind of a hole in the roof of the container. Not a big hole, but maybe a foot in diameter. So I took a hose and stuck it in there and just turned the hose on, and it soaked the entire $250,000 investment. All of their cigarettes were soaked. So we reseal it. We deliver this container to another warehouse, and I know that they're gonna go crazy when they open this. So we go, and I'm obnoxious about, John, I want you guys to trust me. I mean, look, nobody's broken this seal. I want to break the seal. I want to be the guy that breaks the seal. So I break the seal. They open the door, and this water is coming out, and they are screaming. They're cussing me out and everything. And I go, well, look. There's a freaking sea. It's open up there. This thing was probably the top container.
Got rained on.
It got rained on. There was a storm at sea. I said, you just tell them back in China to do a better job when they pack this crap, So again, it never came back on me. We essentially ruined a $250,000 investment.
What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because I need to tell you how to get your health in control, okay? With this thing right here. It's called Whoop. I love it. I didn't think I was going to be a big Whoop guy. I tried it out like a year ago, and I haven't taken it off since. I got a bunch of different bands, and I really enjoy it, all right? Right now, I'm doing Sober October. I'm off the booze. I'm off the K, off the Fent, everything. I just caffeine and nicotine. That's all I've been up to. But there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Just no alcohol, because alcohol is the thing that messes your sleep up the most. And caffeine after 2 p.m. That's just my personal thing. I'll be honest, I have a kid. I should not be getting this much sleep, but because I'm doing Sober October, I've been sleeping unbelievably well. Last night, I got 81% recovery with a newborn. Night before that, 74% recovery with a newborn. Night before that, 20%. Whatever, all right? All I'm saying is if you're interested in getting control of your health, you're going to go to join.whoop.com/camp, all right? C-A-M-P. That's where you're going to find me. I'm actually going to try to make a community. I don't know if this is even possible. I'm saying this without even really knowing the details. I'm going to make a community. So if you are a listener to this program and you get a Whoop or you already have a Whoop, you can join me in our community. We can track our sleep together. We're basically sleeping together if you want to think about it that way. All right. Every night, you and I snuggled up, cozy next to the campfire. So listeners of this show, you're going to get 1 month free when you join with the promo code CAMP. Check it out. join.whoop.com/camp. Let's get back to the show. What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because, as you can see, there's a lot of nice hair on this program. If you're interested in taking better care of your hair, you can check out MD Hair. MD Hair is an amazing service that delivers high-quality products right to your door. And with MD Hair, they're going to be able to assess you and give you a customized package directly to your door for exactly what you need. With that first order, you're going to be getting customized hair wellness supplements, a customized treatment shampoo, and then a customized treatment serum. I'm telling you, this is one of the nicest hair products you can get. It comes in a beautiful package, and tons of people have been using it to get stronger hair, healthier hair, and even regrow their hair that they've lost. It's great. They use AI in all of their services to make sure what you're getting is exactly what you need. When you sign up with MD Hair, what you're gonna do is send them a picture of your scalp. They're gonna use AI and some of their experts in their team. They're gonna analyze your head. They're gonna see where you need help. Maybe it's a little dry, maybe it's a little greasy, maybe you have a receding hairline, maybe you're losing it from the back, all right? And if you're interested in getting better scalp health, if you want to get supplements that are gonna make your hair stronger, look better, be more full, and even thicker, I want you to go to the link in the description right now, go to MD Hair, and I want you to use the promo code CAMPG70. That's CAMP G70, and you will get 70% off your first month. That's right. A customized package right to your door, 70% off your first month. Well, let's get back to the show. It seems kind of small fries. Like, yeah, I mean, sure, it's a criminal enterprise. I get that. But you're getting guys selling cigarettes, you know?
Yeah. So John is the top importer on the West Coast of these counterfeit cigarettes. He introduces me to a female named Jenny, who is kind of helping him. But her boyfriend is a fugitive from the United States living in China, and he's one of the top exporters of cigarettes. So Michael in China is getting the cigarettes, and again, they're either coming from North Korea or China. And he's the one that's arranging for the cigarettes to come over here. And so John introduces me to Jenny. So at one point, Jenny comes to me and she brings me some ecstasy. And again, as I previously mentioned, I'd never seen ecstasy. So that's when I said, where is it? What do you do? How do you do it? So part of my deal was that with my grandfather's trust, I was a semi-savvy investor, and I had 4 or 5 clients that I managed their money, but I'm not a licensed broker, so you can't check up on me. I manage their finances, and I take a percentage of the new profits. And essentially what I would do, I would be driving to the meetings, and I'd listen to the business news, and I'd find out that Gagnon LLC went up 3 points yesterday, and I'd get there, and I'd go, I got lunch today. Gagnon LLC was up 3. Last week I knew that they were going to do this merger and it was going to go up. So I made a ton of money for my people. So when like Jenny brought me the ecstasy, I said, what is it? She explains it all to me. I said, look, one of my guys owns a bar down in New Orleans. Let me see if he wants it. And so essentially I call up my case agent. Hey, do we want ecstasy? She goes, and he goes, yeah, let's take ecstasy. I said, okay, Jenny, yeah, I'll take some. So she starts bringing me ecstasy. Well, again, I'm not a partier, but if you have ecstasy, then you got to have crystal meth. So then she's bringing me crystal meth. So now we're expanding into the ecstasy and the crystal meth. Again, it comes down to the music. I'm starting to make so much money that we're putting money in the Undercover bank account. And my case agent's like, we don't need this money. Let's do something else. So at one of the other guys that I'm dealing with, I said, look, I'm not going to charge you $60,000. I need 2 kilos of meth. I'll charge you 2 kilos of meth. I know you're probably getting it for 15 or 20,000 a kilo. So 2 kilos is only costing you 40. I can turn around and probably make 100,000 piecing this out to my people down up in San Francisco and down in New Orleans. So he brings me 2 kilos. And again, I'm thinking like TV show soundtrack. And as he's handing it to me in my undercover car, I've got playing in the background Harold Melville and the Blue Notes. If you don't know me by now, you'll never, ever know me. and
diabolical. So, but if I'm in their position, and tell me what's missing here. If I'm him, I would look at you and be like, okay, sure, this guy's trying to get some money. He's trying to make money doing this stuff, but he's living off his grandfather's trust or whatever. He's got money. He's independently wealthy. He's making investments. Why is he willing to risk all of this and go to prison with me to just make a couple extra, $500,000? Like, why is it worth it? And was there a cover built into that where you're like, oh, I did organized crime before? Like, did he ever ask you?
No. And, it kind of comes down to that show American Greed. Everybody wants more. And they understood that. I mean, they were making decent money. And, but they could have been making, most of the guys I dealt with, they could have, if they had the entrepreneurial spirit, that they could have made this money doing something else. And again, I'm not trying to be Billy Graham here, but I would often say, if I can make this much money selling Bibles, I'd be selling Bibles. And I can understand why, we can make more money doing heroin and cocaine. Because I went to jury to hear this, and why are you doing this? There was one time with Jenny. because we'll get back to Jenny, but it was like, Jenny, why are you're good. You've got a good mind. Why don't you have a business? Oh, I'd rather party. I can make money doing this, and then I can still party at night. But so you kind of got that. There's just that greed. More is better, and
they tested you out and it worked. So why not just keep on going with it? But did they ever try to get collateral on you? Like, oh, like how do we make sure this guy doesn't try to screw us over? And if he does, this is how we'll get our get back.
Well, we can get into the Supernote, but my deal was that I would open an escrow account with each container. It doesn't make sense, but I would open an escrow account so that you give me your bank account number, I'll give you my bank account number. Here's the agreement. We're not saying this is for counterfeit cigarettes. This is for a shipment of, usually it was like yard goods or sporting goods or something, because they had to phony up the bill of lading
coming from China,
coming from China, and then to getting it through customs and everything. So they would phony up the bills of lading, and we would set up escrow accounts so that if the container didn't get through, if I didn't deliver you the container, then this money automatically transfers to your account. So they thought they had this guarantee, and obviously every container did get through. So we never had to we never had to utilize the escrow account.
So they weren't paying you in cash; they would actually pay you through wire.
No, they were paying me in cash, but they just knew if it got screwed up, that my bank would transfer the money to them.
Got it. So you would meet up with them and they would have a duffel bag of cash?
Yeah. They would always just bring like 60,000 in cash and just lay it on the table.
Wow.
And
handshake and job well done kind of thing.
Yeah. And with them, I never counted it in front of them. It was like, I trust you. You're not going to screw me, because if you screw me, I'm not dealing with you again.
Yeah. So there's a mutual trust. Did you ever feel bad for them? Did you have empathy for any of these guys?
No, never did. I know that's, people have kind of gone over to the other side, but or you feel sorry. I never did. I always was sort of able to separate that through. And early in my career, one of my first undercover cases, in fact, it was Dave, that worked for Joe Bonanno. He sort of saved me in a meeting with some mob guys where they pulled out lines of cocaine, and everyone was going to do the line of cocaine, and I kind of passed on it. And one of the guys pulls out a gun and points it at me and says, "If you don't do the line, we're going to blow your brains out." And again, I hadn't been trained. Now they go with, they have extensive training and all this. I hadn't. And I'm going to say it was a God thing. I don't know, but I said, Joe, I got to tell you, I can't do cane. I can't even do lidocaine or Novocaine at the dentist. So I'll do your stinking line, but I can tell you right now, my heart's going to stop, and you're going to have a hell of a time explaining to the paramedics why I had a heart attack. And Dave says, I'm not going to do this either. I'm not into this, Joe. So I was like, oh, okay. So he puts the gun away. But anyway, I come back to LA, because this was in Scottsdale, Arizona. I come back to San Diego, and I mentioned to one of the older agents that, Dave, we had this Dave kind of cover. He went running to the supervisor saying, I think Bob is, I think he's going over the other side. I think he really likes this guy. And so I got called into the supervisor. I said, I don't like this guy. I mean, yeah, this was a situation. And so I learned very early in my career that you can't trust other agents to kind of tell them what you think or what you feel. Dave was a funny guy, Mark, because again, you don't see this on TV, but my wife was pregnant with our second child, and the Bureau had a transfer policy. If you were in what they called a small office, and San Diego at that time was a small office, you had to go to the Dirty Dozen, a top 12 office. And I was getting transferred to Los Angeles, and our special agent in charge went to headquarters to say, look, he's in the middle of an undercover case. I said, doesn't matter. He's got to go to Los Angeles. So we were going to have to wrap up this case in a hurry. And we still hadn't gotten to the point in Dave's case, what we wanted to do. And I made up the story. Debbie was pregnant. You know, you lie as little as possible, but you still lie. And we're sitting in my undercover car. He's sitting in the passenger seat. And I just said, I got to tell you something. I said, my wife's pregnant. You know, she's pregnant. She's got inverted placenta. I don't know what that means, but we've already lost one child, and I'm not going to lose another. And she didn't have inverted. I don't even know what inverted placenta is, but I'm not going to lose a child. And there's a specialist back in Indianapolis that handles these. So we're moving back to Indianapolis. I was getting transferred to LA, so I had to somehow get out of the picture. And I said, so we're moving back to Indianapolis. And so, you know, this may be it. And he leans over and he taps me on my knee and he goes, have you ever thought of prayer? And we had never talked religion before. And I said, no. And he goes, you know, I've been looking at this religion. It's called Christian Science. And you can call them up and they can pray for you over the phone. And he said, I'm really thinking of taking up the religion once I give up stealing. And I'm literally, because I'm crying about my wife. You know, I've got these fake tears, and he believed the tears. And I'm over there, I'm chewing on my knuckle not to burst out laughing. and I'm, you know, it's probably like the audience in your comedy show. You know, they're guffawing and all that, and so. We very quickly after that, Dave got arrested for possession of cocaine, and my case agents went in and we recovered $1 million worth of stolen property that he had done through our undercover work and all of this. But it was just this situation that I never went over to the other side in terms of my feelings, but Dave expressed more concern for my wife than any FBI agent, you know, because here I was, my wife's 7 months pregnant, and the bureau's making me move to Los Angeles. Yeah. You know, they don't care.
Yeah,
you know, it's the needs of the government. It's not the needs of the employee.
Whereas Dave's over here being like, "Hey, God, let's pray with you. I'll pray for you." Wow, that is wild. So you're now working on the Smoking Dragon case. Back to this. So
I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. I'm here to get you back on track. So you're dealing with the cigarettes for a couple years, and then you start getting into more drugs, into meth and things like this. They're buying your cover. Everyone's making money. Yep. They're making probably millions at this point. You're making hundreds of thousands at this point. And it's all getting distributed to lower level drug dealers, and they're all making money. So everyone's eating. And up until this point, I'm curious, do you know roughly like how much money you've made as as the cover?
No. I know at one point I had thrown out the figure like $1 million, but I know it wasn't that much. I mean, it was $700,000 or anything, because when we get into the money, I'll explain. When we get into the counterfeit bills, I'll explain what happened.
Got it. So then how does it escalate from now drugs? And I'm also curious with the cigarettes, you're getting cigarettes and the CDC's checking them out. Right. And it's kind of above board, but now meth coming in.
Yeah, that we're not distributing the drugs. We're taking the drugs and telling them that my people in New Orleans or my people in San Francisco, they're the ones that are doing the drugs.
Got it. So then the drugs get delivered to your guys in New Orleans, and then it gets pulled out of circulation, and they just pay for it.
Yeah,
got it.
We don't. I mean, the U.S. government can't put drugs like that until, in fact. It was a stupid situation, but at one point, one of the things they were dealing with were counterfeit pharmaceuticals. And when I say counterfeit pharmaceuticals, I'm not talking about little blue Viagra pills in a plastic bag. They were counterfeiting the containers that would go to pharmaceutical companies with this herbal Viagra that they were pushing off as the real stuff made by Pfizer, whoever makes whoever makes Viagra. And it came wrapped in the instructions. I mean, it's the same thing that when you go to the CVS or the Costco pharmacy that's in the back, and they were selling the Viagra to online pharmaceutical companies in Canada. Well, at one point, they brought me a bag of what they said was counterfeit Viagra. And I was down in San Diego, and they wanted me to deliver that bag to somebody up in Los Angeles. Well, it was herbal. It was an herbal Viagra. It wasn't Viagra. And I called my case agent. I said, "Yeah, I got this herbal." He said, "Bob, you can't deliver that. It's drugs. We can't deliver drugs." And I said, "Omar, what am I going to do?" And he says, "Come up with a story." But, I said, "Can't you get permission?" Because like if the head of DEA and the attorney general and I guess the president and the Pope say you can do it, you can do it. And that takes 6 months. But,
right.
So I get up to LA. I'm meeting with, I can't even remember which one. Eventually we indict, between what we did on the East Coast with Operation Royal Charm and we indict 77 people. So I can't remember in this particular case what I was dealing with. But he said, did you bring Viagra? I said, "Oh, shoot. I stuck it on the top of my car when I got in the car. It must have fallen off the car. I forgot about, oh, John, I'm so sorry." So we never delivered.
Wow.
But the whole point is the government can't be in the business of distributing drugs. And when we get into another phase of this case, I will tell you something else in terms of the drugs.
So how does it escalate from drugs? What is the next thing that they want to kind of loop you in on?
Okay. So by this time now, we've got counterfeit cigarettes, we've got counterfeit clothing, we have counterfeit pharmaceuticals. The Russians here on the East Coast are selling me stolen cars. They after about, I'd been back on the West Coast for a couple of weeks when they get a hold of me and say, "Hey, do you want stolen cars?" And so I asked the case agent, "Do we want stolen cars?" And we were trying to get him to deliver the cars out to Los Angeles, but they wouldn't. But by this time, I'm also dealing with agents that are working our sister case called Operation Royal Charm. And so I go back there and I meet with the Russians and buy stolen cars from them, and we store them in the Royal Charms warehouse. So we've got the cigarettes, we've got the ecstasy, we've got crystal meth, we've got stolen cars, we've got counterfeit pharmaceuticals and everything. And my case agent, who was one of the best case agents that I worked with throughout my career, Omar, was good. And he goes, "Bob," he said, "we got to have guns to put on the press conference table. We got to make this look like it's dangerous so that the American people, this looks good." The whole point of any undercover operation is to make the bosses look good, because you never see the undercover agent in the media. You never see the case agent usually in the media. It's always the bosses. So it was like, well, let me see if I can get some guns. And Mark, true story, I promised you I wouldn't lie. We are driving down the 60 freeway, the Pomona freeway, if you're familiar with Los Angeles. One of my other Johns, it sounded like a hooker. I'm dealing with a lot of Johns, but it was a common name, with anglicized name in the Chinese community.
This is a Chinese crime guy that you're with.
Yeah. And we're driving there, and I said, "Hey, one of my buddies owns a PMC, a private military company down in Alabama. He gets hired out by these third world countries. In your next container of counterfeit cigarettes, can you throw in a case of AK-47s? Because they trade here. I mean, they train here in the United States, and then they go to these third world countries and provide security." And just then, a flatbed National Guard truck goes by with a tank on it. And if you saw this in the movie, you're going to say, "No way." If I wrote this in a book, you're going to say, "No way." You don't advance plot with coincidence. The truck goes by with the tank on it, and he goes, "I get you tank." He said, "I just get shipped for drug dealers down in South America." He said, "I get you anything but nuclear weapons." And in my mind, I'm going, holy crap. I wanted like a 9mm to put on the press conference table. And now he's saying he can get me anything short of nuclear weapons. So I said, well, let me check with my guy in Alabama. And I go back to my case agent and the co-case agent. I said, this is what we got. And he said, have him send us a catalog. So I called the guy and I said, so you can get any weapons out of China? He said, yeah. I said, can you send us my guy wants to see his catalog. Can you see a catalog? What's available? So they sent us a catalog of Chinese manufactured guns or weapons. And we decide for some reason, and yes, I carry. Yes, I shoot. I'm not a good shot. No, I'm not a gun nut. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot. I like Michael Keaton in Mr. Mom when he goes, 38 or 39 when they ask him what kind of gun he's got. So I'm closer to Michael Keaton than I am to Mitch Rapp in the Vince Flynn novels. But so they had 20 containers of QW2 shoulder fire missiles available. It was $60 million, and they could promise delivery into the United States if we paid a $2 million bribe to the daughter of the president of Cambodia or to the defense minister of Paraguay. And so legally, you couldn't ship weapons into the United States, but we couldn't buy weapons from China, but Paraguay and Cambodia could. So for the bribe, they would phony up the paperwork to make it look like these weapons were going to Cambodia or China, and then
Cambodia or Paraguay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Cambodia or Paraguay. Thank you for paying attention. So you are paying attention. That's good. That's good. Yeah, so they could phony up that paperwork, and then when the international auditors go in, it's like, okay, yeah, these are where the weapons go. But in fact, they would change the bills of lading to say it was lawn furniture to send to the United States. Well, it was $60 million. We're not going to come up with $60 million, but I get introduced to someone else there in Los Angeles who gives me the names of a couple generals in China, and I'm talking to them. We're negotiating for this deal, and it's a conspiracy. We never take delivery because the case goes down, but it was kind of like the government wasn't going to give me $60 million to buy the missile, but we could have done it. I mean, had we set our sights lower, we might have been able to get the thing done. And my one co-case agent, who was a gun nut, I mean, great guy. Bud was a great guy, but he said, let's just get one. If we can just get one. And I said to John, I said, look, can we just get one just to make sure that it works? And I think, you don't need one. If you do one, you still have to pay the $2 million bribe or the $1 million bribe. You come to China with me, and we will go to China, and you can see that it works there. And it's like, that's really not what we needed. We didn't need that. We wanted the weapon to come here just to put on the press conference table.
Wow. But, that is so crazy. So the way that the crime, the sort of deal would work is it comes from China. The daughter of the president of Cambodia would accept the bribe for some reason because she was in charge of that.
You know what? I never researched that. I never asked it. We were just told that's what was going to happen. And then Cambodia would say, yes, we took delivery of the weapon. Now we were told, this was told on tape. And again, what I'm telling you is what I was told. So first of all, John Woo, one of our main targets, I never caught him in a lie. So at least he was telling me what he believed is the truth. But he said that if we don't take the 20 containers of QW2 missiles, they were going to North Korea. But we we'd contacted the CIA. Do you guys want to buy? Give me the 60 million. We can buy the missiles and everything. And they said, and I can't say the CIA said no, but whoever we contacted with the CIA, he said, oh, we can't do it. And then later on, after the case went down, my case agent was talking to another CIA official at a big powwow back in DC. And of course, the other CIA official says, well, why didn't you contact us? We would have given you the 60 million.
Wow.
It's like, golly, that would have been fun, to say that. But I couldn't go to China, which disappointed me because by treaty, we had to notify if we were sending someone over. And of course, if I get caught over there and they find out I'm an FBI agent, then I'm a spy. And I kind of joked that, well, it'd be another chapter in the book. That would be kind of cool because eventually we were going to go to North Korea. And I said, that's what I want. I want to go to North Korea.
Now you're dealing with the actual Chinese generals in the military?
On the phone I am.
Now, so how does that work over there? Like they're these giant weapons manufacturers in China that are making these missiles. And then do they know where it's going?
I'm sure they did. I'm dealing with them. Yes, they knew it was coming here.
Got it.
I mean, you've had the weapons dealer on your show.
Absolutely.
He would have seen through all of this.
Right.
But yeah, and to be honest, they told me they were generals, and my guy here in Los Angeles was saying these are the generals. And so I'm dealing with them.
But who knows?
But sort of like even here in the United States, when we've got corruption that, for enough money, I'll phony up the paperwork to make it look like I've sold it to this person when in fact it's going to this person. And, we pay a couple bribes and he'll admit that he got it. And then it was destroyed in a fire, whatever. I don't know how they were going to work it out, but it turned out that we weren't going to be able to do the 60 million.
Right.
And the case was starting to come to a close. But it's because of that case, it was because of the weapons that now headquarters recognizes that, Bob is into some pretty deep stuff out there in Los Angeles. And my case agent is saying, well, now we have a new direction to go and see if you can pull this off. And that's how we get into the Supernote investigation.
So this all comes still from the same guy, John Woo, is still the guy that's involved with
He's the facilitator. As I've said several times, this guy, if I were able to show you the undercover tapes, you would say, no way. This guy, he laughs. He's short. He's stocky. He laughs all the time. He's not Joe Pesci, in Casino. It's not when he's playing Anthony Spilotro. It's not that. It's this guy. He just but he could get us. I said he was the most dangerous man in America because no matter what we brought up, he was able to facilitate it. Like I said, he said he got the ship for the drug dealers in South America. When we eventually bring up the Supernote, he introduced me to people. When we bring up the weapons, he introduced me to people. At one point, we were with somebody else, and they were talking about plastic garbage bags. And how many millimeter thick do you want? I mean, he knew everything about plastic garbage bags. It was like everything that came up, he had an answer, and he knew somebody that could do it. You probably have that friend that no matter what you bring up,
yep.
Oh, I got a guy that knows a guy.
Yep.
That was John Woo.
If you need it, I got it.
Yep.
And if I don't got it, I can get it.
Yeah.
And if I can't get it, you don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good line.
Yeah.
There was one time I just said to him, I said, John, I said, when we talk about copyright, you just mean right to copy. And he's, yeah, you bring me a sample, I make it for you. you know, at one point they were counterfeiting our postage stamps. It was like, why? And they were the 100 stamp rolls with the barcodes, and we ended up getting 17 master cases, about the size of a master case of those cigarettes. If you think about holding 50 cartons of cigarettes, we had 17 master cases filled with 100 stamp rolls of postage stamps with the barcodes on it. And that was actually another one of the funny stories, because when we opened it and we found the postage stamps, it was like crap. Because first of all, what do we do? But now we got to kind of cut in postal authorities. Well, that's somebody else.
More bureaucracy is going to slow it all down.
But the chance of it being blown, I mean, and I apologize if your listeners, if someone is a postal authority, but I'm sure 17 master cases of counterfeit stamps would be the biggest case they've worked. So they're going to talk to their wife, to their girlfriend, or whatever, and it could leak out and all this. So we ended up, I think we took, you know, to be honest, I can't even remember how we got rid of it, how we seized it. I think we took 2 cases and let the other 15 go through. But I was obnoxious, yelling at it was Jenny. Now that it's coming back. Sometimes my mind works, Mark.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
When it's working, it's good.
It was Jenny, and I yelled at her, you know, don't you ever do this to me again. Don't you understand when they x-ray those containers, if it doesn't all look alike, they're going to open the container. And now if Michael ever does that again, he's out of here. I'm done with this, you know, and then she's complaining that they were 2 boxes short. And I said, I didn't take them. What am I going to do with 2 boxes of counterfeit postage stamps? You know, but when you think about it, the postal isn't going to, when it goes through the machine, it's not reading whether it's counterfeit or not.
Yeah,
I mean,
they just see stamps.
Again.
And the postage stamp hustle was just to make money? Like,
just to make money.
It wasn't to facilitate some greater crime.
No,
it was just...
I don't think so. Mark, I guess we can get into this eventually, but we were in the Ritz Carlton in Pasadena, which is no longer Ritz Carlton. The camera is in a lamp. The whole counterfeit money deal that we'll get into kind of got screwed up for a while. And John is looking into he's looking right into the camera as he's talking about this, and his cell phone rings, and he picks it up. And of course he's talking Mandarin, and I don't understand a word. I know no Chinese, which was really good, because there would be times that we'd send the tapes, you know, we'd have Mandarin speakers that would translate the tapes, and I'd get the translations 3 weeks back. And it was like, boy, they were really mad at you, you know. it's like somebody said this about you and that about you. And it's like, you know, I'm glad I didn't hear it. Probably would have hurt my feelings, but he gets a phone call, and it's Mandarin, and they're ordering up, like, I want to say 350 counterfeit credit cards that they're going to do because they were part of this cyber crime. But this is John, the guy's calling him up to get the 350 counterfeit credit cards. And he's talking right on the phone, you know, and on the camera to whomever. My point is, he was into everything. Whatever you wanted, he was into.
Fascinating.
He eventually introduced me to some Iraqis down in San Diego that we were trying to put together as part of they started with cigarettes, but we're trying to get them connected with the weapons deal. One of the conversations that we had with the guy from one of the Iraqi guys, at one point he was talking about religion and everything. And I said, you talk about religion and we're talking about the guns, and, you know, don't you? Oh, no. You never mix religion and business. He ended up going back to Iraq and got killed.
Oh, wow.
So,
and that was another connect that came through John.
Yeah, that came through John. I mean,
wow.
John just,
Was he an American citizen?
yes. Yeah.
And was he intimidating in any way? I know you mentioned him kind of being jovial and kind of jolly, but did he have muscle around him? Like, he's dealing with all this money and bad guys.
You know, it's interesting. He didn't. Some of the other guys did. There was an incident. I obviously you're in shape, and I can tell that. And it gets down to the Supernote case, which maybe we'll get into. I think we're probably talking too long now. But at one point, some guy came over from China because I was refusing to release a container of cigarettes, and he has 2 bodyguards, and both of them have the big calluses on the thumb, or on the hand from breaking boards. And I noticed this immediately, and I'm not armed, I took a steak knife and sort of slipped it inside my sleeve, and I thought, this is ridiculous. There's no way you're gonna by the time you even try to, they're gonna break you in 2, But I was thinking, at least I'll have a steak knife if something happens. But so this guy had his bodyguards, but John never threatened me, but he just said, we have people that can do something. If I know people that have 100,000 soldiers that can do something to you, or to us for when you do something. But John was just a criminal entrepreneur that was a facilitator.
Wow. So how does the Supernote come into play, and how does that develop?
Okay, so the Supernote, your viewers and your listeners are young, but in 1996 we changed the $100 bill. That's when the new $100 bill came out. And quite honestly, at the time, I was undercover at the racetrack at Hollywood and Santa Anita, Hollywood Park and Santa Anita, which were top thoroughbred horse racing venues in the nation, but Hollywood Park doesn't exist anymore. But the new $100 bill came out, and everyone saw, the $100 bill, it's a new $100 bill. And they just said because the old one was being counterfeited. Well, I just assumed that it was Bob and Mark in their backyard with the Xerox machine that's Xeroxing off the $100 bills.
That's what I think.
And so now the new $100 bill had special marks, and and it looked cool because it was much better than the previous ones and everything. So it didn't mean much to me, but that's when the new $100 bill came out. Well, it turns out that North Korea was counterfeiting our $100 bill. And that new one that came out, they were counterfeiting the old one. So that's why the government came out with the new one that was counterfeit proof, and they were counterfeiting the counterfeit proof bill. So when they first started counterfeiting the bills, the Bureau of Printing and Engraving and Secret Service, they were putting out to the merchants and the banks that Mark Gagnon's picture is not on the $100 bill. It's Benjamin Franklin. So if you see this, you know that it's counterfeit.
Vice versa, you mean? It's not Ben Franklin. It's Mark.
Yeah, whatever. You are listening.
I just want to be. Okay. The counterfeit stuff is complicated, so I just want to make it clear.
So North Korea is reading the bulletins that they're sending to the banks and to the merchants, and they're changing the plates. So every time they would point out, look at this, look at that, they were changing the plates. They came up with their $100 bills were near perfect. And it turned out that I was tasked with trying to see if I could get the Supernote, and it had to be the Supernote. So by this time,
and I'm sorry, when you say Supernote, you mean this brand new, perfectly counterfeit $100
perfect.
bill?
Yeah, it was called in law enforcement circles the Supernote or the Super Dollar, and I was tasked with trying to get it. Again, what I'm about to say doesn't make sense, but I'm dealing with 5 different groups underneath this umbrella organization now. So I put the word out that I need good quality counterfeit money. And when I do deals with you guys, we have that escrow account. Well, I've got other people I'm dealing with. I don't want to go into details, but I've got money tied up in safety deposit boxes. And so if they know that if something goes wrong, they can take the money out of the safety deposit box. Well, the trouble is I'm putting a couple $100,000 of real bills into this safety deposit box, and I could be making money investing the real bills. So I need good quality counterfeit money that I can put into the safety deposit box. Now, can you get me? I don't want cheap stuff that you're on a Xerox machine. I want good quality counterfeit bills. Can you get it for me? So I can't say, oh, I saw on Rush Hour 2 that they talk about the Supernote. You know, can you bring me that? So now the first bill that one of the guys brings me, I give it to my case agent. He gives it to our Secret Service contact. And they said, oh, no, this is made in Colombia. We've already seen it. The second bill they bring me, oh, no, this is made in Macau. We've already seen it. The third bill they bring me, they go, oh, we've never seen this one before, but this isn't the Supernote. Well, then two guys brought me the Supernote. And interestingly enough, when John Woo brought me the Supernote, he explained that it's a minimum $1 million purchase and it's 35 cents on the dollar. So it's $350,000 for this minimum purchase. Like I gave the $100 bill to my case agent. He gives it to Secret Service. Secret Service, the analysts in LA came back and said that it was real. And I said, look, if you're telling me the truth, I am mortgaging my house because I'm going to buy as much real money that they're willing to sell me for 35 cents on the dollar.
It's a good investment.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems fair to me. Or seems wise at least. And I said, Omar, I think they better check it again. So they checked it at headquarters, Secret Service headquarters, and they came back and said, no, these two bills are the Supernote. We haven't told you out in the field because it's been compromised. There were 3 top secret marks on the bills that they had never actually shared sort of outside the inner circle back in DC. So now we've got the Supernote. I mean, wow. So now we put in, so this is where we come back to the steak knife case. The one guy that I'm dealing with has a container coming in. And I said, look, that money you brought me, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. And you've got your container. I want $100,000 in those bills and you can have your container. Well, he shows up to my warehouse with $60,000 of real cash. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I told you $100,000. I don't know about you, pal, but I'm a man of my word. I said $100,000 of those bills because I can make more with that. I know darn well you're not paying $60,000 because you're probably paying, and he never gave me a price. I said, you're probably paying 35 cents on the dollar for this. So that, that's only costing you $35,000 and I want $100,000 of that. And there was a problem over in Asia where they had seized a bunch of counterfeit Supernotes over there. So I think he was telling me the truth, but I wouldn't release the container. So that's when the big guy comes over from, actually from Hong Kong with his bodyguards, and we're having the meeting in the restaurant, and I slipped it's funny because Jenny, one of our targets, she's my translator.
Oh, really?
So I bring her to this meeting, and that's when I slipped the steak knife in my sleeve, thinking that this could all go south in a hurry. And I'm not wearing a gun, or I'm not that cool a martial artist. And so jabbering back and forth, and I'm saying, Jimmy promised me this, Jimmy promised me that. He didn't come through with his promises. I'm not doing a container. And finally, the guy tells Jenny that, okay, good. Tell Bobby can keep the container. So they didn't have access to the $100,000 because all of it had been, or that their source had been.
They got jammed up.
So then they're blah 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 back and forth, and I'm wearing a wire, so all this is being recorded. So I said, "So, what did he just say about Jimmy?" And she goes, "Oh, he say Jimmy going to be killed." And it was like, oh crap, I can't have that on tape. It's like, Jimmy. And so finally I said, look, I like Jimmy. I don't want Jimmy killed. Okay, bring me $60,000. I'll release your container. So we settled all that. I got the $60,000 in cash and we released the container, but they were going to kill Jimmy for screwing up this deal. And thanks to Jenny translating for him. I mean, again, she ends up getting indicted, convicted, I think ended up serving 7 years, but she was my translator in that case.
Wow.
And
so you had his container?
Yeah, in my warehouse. And
it was just an empty container?
No, it had all the counterfeit cigarettes. It was a container of counterfeit cigarettes.
And you were using that as leverage to then get the cash. Right. And so that $60,000, that was counterfeit. Oh, that was just them trying to.
60 was the real money.
That was them trying to pay to get the container.
To get the real money.
And you said, to get
it. They brought me the real money.
And you say, look, I don't want the real money. I don't want the fake ones.
I wanted the fake money.
I understand.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. I should have made that clear.
No. That makes complete sense now. I mean, that's kind of ballsy to be trying to hardball these guys is like pretty intense. Being like, hey, I'm not releasing your shit until you get me what I want.
Again, it comes back. I was where God wanted me, and I had a great life insurance policy. So if my time was up, my wife was going to live happily ever after. And, I always joke she probably would have bought some little pool boy. And, she if I came home alive, she got me. If I didn't, she had a nice insurance policy and live happily ever after.
That's wild. So even in these meetings where you're like kind of playing rough with these guys to get what you want, you weren't afraid of them, taking you out. Like if they're willing to kill Jimmy, why aren't they willing to kill you?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Well, I'm glad you weren't my case agent.
Oh my gosh, Bob, this is stressing me out, dude. I don't know. I can perform in front of thousands of people. I can't do this. What's up, guys? We're gonna take a break really quick because it's 2024, and it's time to talk about something important. When you are seriously hurt, your injury could be worth millions. Yes, that's right. The world is a crazy place, and one person's negligence can result in another's settlement. And that's why I got to talk to you about Morgan & Morgan. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They have over 100 offices nationwide and over 1,000 lawyers. Yes, these are the big boys. You know them, you see their billboards all over the world. If you ever drove down I-90 from Florida to New York, I'm telling you, you've seen the billboards, all right? Have you ever watched a UFC fight? You've seen them right on the banner. I'm telling you, these are the biggest guys in the game, all right? With over $20 billion recovered for over 500,000 clients, Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you full and fair compensation. The annoying thing with most attorneys is that in order to submit a claim, you got to call them up, you got to talk to their people, you got to go back and forth on emails, you got to hope that they see it. They might charge you just to even look at their claim. Here's the cool thing with Morgan & Morgan. With 8 clicks or less, you can submit a claim and one of their licensed attorneys will take a look at it and get back to you. It's that easy. It's like ordering something off Amazon. It's just a couple clicks. You can submit your claim very easily and cheap. Yeah, how about $0? That's how much it costs to submit a claim with Morgan & Morgan. Extremely easy, no fee required. So, if you are ever injured, you can go check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. That's right, unless they win for you. Unless they fight and get you compensation, you're not paying a single dollar. That's a pretty good deal. So, for more information, go to forthepeople.com/Gagnon. That's correct, forthepeople.com/Gagnon, or dial pound law, that's pound 529 from your cell phone. That's for the people, forthepeople.com/Gagnon, or dial pound law, pound 529 from your cell phone. This is a paid advertisement. Now let's get back to the show after this short disclaimer. What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because I got to tell you about an amazing service known as Blue Chew. That's right. Blue Chew is a service that basically delivers this chewable tablet to your door whenever you want, once a week, once a month. I don't even know if they could do it that frequently, but they'll send it right to your door. You don't have to go to the doctor and have some awkward conversation with some guy in a lab coat, some dude that's judging you, probably, if I had to guess. With Blue Chew, it's super discreet. The packaging is discreet. It's just a couple questions on their website, and they will send you chewable tablets that have basically the same active ingredients as like a Viagra or a Cialis, but at the fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. It's great. It truly is. I mean, one time I was in the woods and we were cold and it was raining, and I pitched a tent with the help of Blue Chew, and everyone gathered under it, and we were safe, and it saved me and a lot of lonely people. So if you're interested in Blue Chew, here's how you get it. You're going to go to bluechew.com and use the promo code GAGNON. That's right, GAGNON. It's kind of funny, Gagnon as the promo code. I don't know why exactly, but it is funny. And you're going to receive your first month for free. That's right, bluechew.com. Use the promo code Gagnon. Check it out. Blue Chew. Let's get back to the show.
So now we've got John Woo, my buddy, my facilitator, the guy that set me up with the weapons deal, the guy that set me up with the Iraqis, the guy that set me up with the counterfeit cigarettes and
the meth,
the counterfeit Viagra and all that stuff. So now we've got him. So he's explaining about Wilson Liu. And Wilson Liu's brother is the one that deals directly with North Korea.
Who's Wilson Liu?
Wilson Liu is a new character. I just bring that name up, but Wilson Liu is the facilitator for the Supernotes.
I see. And those are all made in North Korea.
All made in North Korea.
Now, do you think that is above board? Like, do the North Koreans know about this?
Absolutely.
The government?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's nothing you can really do in North Korea without the government knowing.
No.
North
Korea is a criminal enterprise.
So how does that crime scheme work for them? Like, the government plus, I'm sure, some citizens of North Korea are creating counterfeit $100 bills and then selling them around the world at a discount. And then people, I'm sure, in all over the world, not only America, but in other countries too, because everyone kind of trades in the dollar. They're buying them at a discount, and then they're using them to purchase things.
I would say it's kind of, and I'm not speaking as an expert, but it's sort of a twofold. One, it's facilitating North Korea.
Because they're making money.
But two, it's undermining the U.S. dollar, which is undermining their enemy. So
I see.
It's kind of a
2 for 1.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Wow. And so now you need people that are on the inside as a liaison with North Korea in order to do these deals.
So now John introduces me to Wilson Liu. And
what is Wilson Liu like? Did you meet him?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
What did he look like? What was it? Was he North Korean?
He was Chinese.
Okay.
But his brother, according to Wilson, his brother was a bigwig in China that dealt directly with North Korea. And so he was the facilitator with North Korea.
Got it. So now you talk to Wilson, you're like, hey, I need some Supernotes.
Yeah. Well, we meet in the Ritz Carlton, and it's on videotape, audio tape.
You set up the room, or the team sets up the room with all the cameras and wires and everything, and you invite him in there and paint the picture. Like, take me through how he looks. What does he dress like? Who does he bring?
He's younger than John. He's thinner. I mean, he was kind of built closer to me. More cautious. John had built me up as by this time we're well into 2 years in this investigation. So this is going to come across racist, but I was the quipple wound eye. That's the way they referred to me, because I was crippled and I had round eyes. So they would talk about
races against you. That's what you meant.
Well, but he quipple wound eye, and so you had guys in China that were vouching for me because their containers were getting through. Nothing, as far as they knew, nothing was happening.
For years.
Yeah, for 2 years. So John is building me up, but Wilson is cautious in the meeting. I can't quite remember all of the details, but I'll give a plug out to David Rose, who wrote a very good article in Vanity Fair called North Korea, the Super Dollar Store, or something like that. Maybe it's North Korea Dollar Store, but a great article that he wrote. He interviewed Wilson Liu after he was convicted, and talks about how it was all set up. But Wilson Liu, this money, Mark, he laundered $1 million through the slot machines in Las Vegas. This money that North Korea was producing, they had our printing press, they had the paper that we were using. It was so good that it was going through the slot machines. I mean, and so essentially, as Wilson Liu is explaining to me in this meeting, and as he explains to David Rose in this article, you put a $100 bill into the slot machine, win or lose, whatever, you cash out, and you go to you take your chips or take your chit, whatever it is, go to the cashiers, and if you lost $10, then they give you $90 back. If you won 110, they give you $110. So
wow,
without really investing anything, he's making this, and he admits that he laundered about $1 million through the slot machines of Las Vegas. Was living in San Marino, which is a very exclusive community in Los Angeles, outside of Los Angeles and Pasadena.
So does he give the money to people? Because it's kind of slow to launder it one pull at a time.
Nah, he's selling it. I mean, he was a big gambler, so they were doing. He admitted to me that in one of our meetings that he had just sold $30,000 to somebody that was going down to South America. They tried, for the most part, they tried to keep it out of the United States. Wilson Liu was one of the few people that was bringing it into the United States. They thought that we could detect it. We really weren't doing a good job of detecting it. But overseas, they just figured it was easier to try to pass a $100 bill overseas than it was here in the United States. But yeah, Wilson was one of the few guys that was doing it. But I have John in the Ritz Carlton, when he first got the samples, talking about, I went to the bank, deposited in the bank, nothing happened. Went to the store, bought this stuff. This really works. Because kind of my deal with when they were bringing me the samples that weren't the Supernote, my story was it's got to go through the self-service machine at Home Depot. And so I would just come back and say, no, I don't want to. This didn't work at Home Depot.
So that's how you got out of it.
So that's how I got out of.
He gave you the Columbia one.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I buy the Columbia one? Why wouldn't I buy this one? It's like, didn't work through the slot machine.
But you show it to the case agent. They say, this is the good one. And then you go back and you go, worked at Home Depot.
Yeah.
This is great. Give me more of that. Wow. So if I'm Wilson Liu, how am I cleaning it through the casinos? I'm taking the money in cash and then I'm going to a casino and just playing with it?
Well, playing with it, buying chips, sticking it through the machine,
giving it to other people, or is it?
Well, no. You go to the cage and buy $1,000 worth of chips, so you can go to the tables,
and then you play a little.
Play a little, win or lose. Then you cash in your chips. And I mean, it's a great laundering scheme.
Do they still do that?
I don't know. I'm not a gambler.
Laundering through the casino seems like such a good idea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because it's obviously, I'm sure they have some mechanism to test if things are legit, but you have so much money going in and out.
Yeah.
3 a.m. in Vegas, it's going to be hard to be detecting.
But he's claiming, it really went through
directly
the
through
machines, where you can just put the $100 bills straight in the machine.
Wow.
So kind of to jump forward a little bit, when we got to trial in Las Vegas, it was really interesting. It's an act of war to counterfeit another nation's currency. So technically, if some country is counterfeiting our currency, the law of war recognizes that we could go after them.
Wow.
I'm testifying in Wilson Liu's court, in federal court. I'm walking, they put me up in a hotel downtown, and I'm walking past the state courthouse is when they're having the preliminary hearing for O.J. Simpson's, when he stole all his memorabilia.
Yeah.
And you've got all the camera. I mean, it's Camp O.J. You've got all these cameras up and the sound systems, and these reporters are out there, and you can see them reporting. And I'm walking past them. I go into the federal court. Nobody is there. And it's like, people, it's an act of war to counterfeit. This guy laundered, $1 million through your slot machines. This guy is facilitating the destruction of the American economic system, but you're worried about an ex-football player who's stole his autograph, tried to get his autograph.
How many
yards
did Wilson Lou rush? All right.
Yeah.
How many touchdowns did he score for Cal? You know what I'm saying? For USC. That's all that matters.
But so I go into my prosecutor, good guy, did a good job. And he's got the big exhibits up for court, the $100 bills that are blown up. And he says, Bob, which one's the counterfeit? And I'm looking closely because what turns out, we have to reveal 2 of the 3 top secret marks in court in order to prove that these were the counterfeit bills. And I look at it, and on the one, the minute hand on one of the clocks in the tower is bleeding over just a little bit on the clock. It's just like a small nick. And I go, okay, now I see. I mean, I'd looked for a long time, but he's got it blown up big enough. And I look and I can see the little nick. And I said, there it is right there. That's the counterfeit. He said, nope, that's the real one. The counterfeit was better.
Wow.
The counterfeit, the plate didn't have a nick in it, I guess, whatever. And I mean, maybe someone suggested that the government did that on purpose so they could identify it. But I just think that whenever they did it, they had a little nick in there, and North Korea had the better plate. But Wilson Lou then was eventually convicted. I can't remember how many years he got, but at one point we're playing a tape of one of my meetings with Wilson Lou, and I have Elvis Presley singing "Fools Rush In" or something in the background, and the defense counsel tried to make a big deal out of me taking advantage of his client who was from another country, and culturally I was taking advantage.
So how did you actually get Supernotes? Like, did you actually get a shipment of Supernotes from him? And how did that work?
Not directly. Well, I'm not sure I got them directly from John. They mailed me in a FedEx box a book that is cut open and bills are in it. I mean, not professionally. So you can see if you blow up that picture that you're holding, you can see the return addresses out of China, and they did a poor quality. It wasn't like in the movies. You can tell they used a razor blade and cut out this book, put those Supernotes, and I can't remember. That's a couple $1,000 of Supernotes that they sent, just sort of like for good faith, and we gave it. So now here's the true story. This is the rest of the story. Like I said, we're close to $750, $1 million in my undercover bank account that we've made from the bad guys. So we've got that. We've got the samples. We've got these samples that, a couple thousand to prove that this is more than just a one-off with that $100 bill. John Woo tells me it's $350,000 for $1 million purchase. There's no negotiations. It's $350,000 up front. And I contact Omar and say, are we ready to pull the trigger? And he says, let me check with headquarters. And he calls headquarters, and headquarters says, yes, go ahead and do it. Let's buy it. Now, this $350,000 is coming out of my undercover bank account. It's not your tax dollars. It's not the Bureau's money. It's our undercover money. It's project generated income. I tell John to do it, and this has to be Tuesday or Wednesday that I tell John, let's go forward with the deal. And he says, okay, I need the $350,000 by Monday, I think. I had a couple days to actually bring him the $350,000 in cash. The very next day, the frickin' headquarters calls and said, we think this is a ripoff. You can only do $175,000 in the first payment and then $175,000 when the money's delivered. And Omar calls me and And we're both just going off, no, that's not the deal. It was $350 up front. You got to, this is why are you doing this to me? You're setting me up. These guys, and it's true, but I'm sort of embellishing. I could get killed. I'm not dealing with, and I think I used more than flaccid penis, but I'm not, I'm dealing with organized crime guys that profess killing people and all this. You've set this whole thing up, and now you're doing this to me. So Omar goes back. Monday comes. No resolution from headquarters. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And John, what are you doing? Where's the money? Where's the money? Again, Mark, it makes no sense. I came up, I told him, I said, John, I liquidated my stock. My broker is in, the clearinghouse is in Nebraska. I liquidated the stock. They sent a check to my accountant in New York, but it wasn't a certified check. So now there's a 10-day hold on, a 10 business day hold on the check. You're going to get your money. Meantime, you're going to get your money, but there's nothing I can do. I don't have $350,000 in cash to give you. So you're going to get your money. Meanwhile, Omar is back and forth with headquarters. You're going to do it. Well, it's like, okay, A is signed off on it, but B's out of town and he won't be back in. C is here, but B isn't here, and C won't sign it till B signs it. So it took almost 10 days to get the Bureau to finally agree to let us pay our $350,000, not even their money.
Yeah.
So we finally get it paid. So now this brings us to the Ritz Carlton with the lamp when he's talking, and he goes, "You never do this to me again. You get us killed." Well, the guy who had to sign off on it was an assistant director in charge. So we call him ADIX. So he was the one that did the final sign off. So we're in the Ritz Carlton. John he's up and down, walking up and down. And in this meeting, we're also talking about the weapons deal, but we're also talking about a brand new counterfeit bill that was 40 cents on a dollar that Secret Service had never seen. So this is all brand new, but we're dealing with the $350,000, and he's explaining the price and everything, because by now he's got the $350,000 for this meeting. He says, you never do this to us. You get us killed. You don't understand how dangerous this is. And Mark, he says this on the tape. You do not understand how dangerous this is. This money is made in North Korea, is distributed through the Russian embassy in Beijing, and that is where we get it. This is so dangerous. You get us all killed. And it's like, holy crap. I mean, we've got him on tape. Now, as I said, I never caught him in a lie, and I can't prove that that's what the deal is, but that's what he's explaining. So at one point I just go, John, you don't understand. This won't happen again. The guy I'm dealing with back east, he's a dick. And he goes, a dick. Horrible. We never deal with him again.
Wow. You told him who it was. That's so funny.
But it was fascinating that all this has come, because at one point in one of our conversations, he said, I will take you back. We will sit in front of the embassy, and we will send our people in, and they will bring the money out. And
of the Russian embassy?
The Russian embassy, yeah, in Beijing. And again, at this time, I'm briefing CIA on some of what we're doing. There was one meeting, the first meeting I had with one of the CIA case officers. And again, I hate it when people attribute, oh, the FBI is horrible or the CIA is incompetent. It's like, no, there are great agents that are out there risking their lives. There are CIA case officers that are doing great business. But anyway, when I briefed this one case officer about what we're doing, he says, God, I wish we were doing stuff like this. I said, what do you guys do? But anyway, I said, look, here's the situation. I said, if you got a knock, a non-official cover, if you want to send somebody over, I can vouch for them, and they can go and they can sit right outside the embassy when they send it in. And he goes, well, write it up and we'll see if we can get the approvals. And I said, well, how long will it take to get the approvals? And he said, probably 6 weeks or so. I said, I got to have this by Monday. And so I ended up telling John, I said, John, I trust you. I know you're not going to screw me. I said, you just have your people get it done, and let's get the money back. I trust you to get it back. So that's when we come to, actually, maybe my timeline's off. We've already gotten this first $1 million shipment. So we get the first $1 million shipment. We order up a second shipment because they've changed it. Now you only had to put up 10% because we got the first one.
So they trust you.
They trust me. You only have to put up 10% and then you pay the 70%. So we knew all the arrests were going down on this weekend in August, and we set up a second shipment. So that money is on the high seas when we make all the arrests. But the important thing from my standpoint is the weekend before we make all the arrests, one of the representatives from North Korea is meeting with me and is telling me that they are going to make me the exclusive distributor of the Supernote in the United States, and they're going to give me $40 million a year to launder in the United States. Now, whether it's true, I don't know, but this is what they tell me on tape. I mean, I'm wearing it, and my wife still thinks that maybe I should have taken the deal. You know, I would have tithed to the church. I would have given my 10%.
Yeah, I don't know what the FBI salary is, but I can't imagine it's $40 million a year.
Yeah, but I guess, you know, it's kind of one of those things, you know, with my FBI pension, I don't have to look over my shoulder.
That's kind of nice.
You know,
so this shipment of the million, the first million that came through of the Supernotes, can you explain how you received it?
Okay,
and
so
what it looked like? I can't imagine it's easy to ship $1 million.
No,
in a shipping container.
Yeah. So what the deal was? Typically, the containers, if you see the big containers out on the interstates, you got 20-foot, 40-foot, and 53-footers. So typically with the cigarettes, they were coming in 40-foot containers. So in this particular case, I am told, and I kind of think it was either from John or Wilson, I can't remember now, but it was going to come in a 20-foot container with fabric, rolls of fabric. So each roll of fabric would be numbered. So when I talk about a roll of fabric, it's like 6 feet long, probably 50 yards. You know, the same thing that what do they do here in the garment district when they're making clothing?
Just rolled up into a big tube.
Rolled up into a plastic tube, and then there were numbers at the end. So,
and then I'm sure on the label that they sent it out as, fabric.
It was fabric. Yeah, this one they didn't have to phony up the bill of lading. It was fabric.
Made in North Korea.
No, I think it made in China. Yeah, it probably would have said made in China because we wouldn't.
I'm sorry, the bills were made in North Korea.
Yeah, the bills were made in North Korea.
Sent through the Russian embassy in China, somehow wrapped up in the Chinese fabric, shipped out of China as Chinese fabric heading for the West Coast.
Heading to the West Coast.
Got it.
So the container arrives. We bring it to our undercover warehouse. That day it arrives. We've got some Secret Service executives there. We got some FBI executives. And the container arrives, and we open the doors, and obviously it's just law enforcement officials. We don't have John Woo's not there or any of his associates.
And would they normally be there?
Oh, no.
Once it's arrived and it gets to you, they don't give a shit.
They don't care. They only, this was a huge deal if this was true. I mean, to jump forward, George Bush in a subsequent press conference announced, so we have clear and convincing evidence that North Korea is counterfeiting a $100 bill. It's an act of war, knock it off. I mean, you know, it's saying that this is the first time that we really have proof of this.
So your case is getting all the way up to the president.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So they're there. They're watching us. we're pulling out the rolls of fabric. Of course, the executives are just watching. They're not helping us pull out the rolls of fabric. We're pulling out the rolls of fabric. Every one of them has a number at the end of the roll of fabric. This isn't the number. This isn't the number. John, I think it was John or Wilson, had given me the 4 numbers to look for on the rolls. And we're pulling them out. We're pulling them out. And there had to have been hundreds of rolls. And we get all the way to the back of the container. And I know Omar and I were like, shoot, shoot, shoot. And you could sort of look up there and see the executives kind of smirking that the Secret Service is smirking because, the FBI, they're going to screw this up. The FBI is smirking because we told you it was going to be a ripoff.
Yeah.
We come to the 4 rolls and it's the numbers we're looking for. And Omar and I both, this is sort of like a kid at Christmas where you ask for the Red Ryder BB gun, but now is it really packed in this? So we take the first roll of fabric and we start unrolling it. And we're pushing it out and we're pushing it out and we can't feel anything. And we're on our hands and knees unrolling this fabric. And we sort of get almost to the end and there's a lump. We can feel a lump. And I looked over at Omar and he looked over at me and we push it further and there is the money taped to the rolls of fabric. I mean, roughly by this time they had sent us some money ahead. So it's roughly $1 million of this counterfeit bills. And it was like this from, at least on the United States, this was the biggest seizure ever. And we've got the Supernote. We've got it. Now, each of these bills it's a separate serial number. So, I mean, it's not like the typical Xerox machine where it's all the same number. I mean,
perfect.
It was so exciting. Now, what happened was, and I may have my numbers wrong, but we were supposed to pay John like $30,000 in the counterfeit money. So we had issues before with Secret Service not allowing us to put counterfeit money into the circulation. So we had to go to the National Reserve Bank and get brand new $100 bills so that we could give him the real $30,000. And I think 30,000 was the figure, but we had to give them the real bills.
That's so
thinking
funny.
that they were counterfeit.
So he wanted counterfeit and you were like, all right, we'll rip him off, give him real ones.
We're going to screw him. We'll give him real money.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I'm sure it was kind of like, man, this is so good. This goes through the slot machines. It works at the Home Depot.
And he's looking at it like, man, they did a good job with this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
So it was quite a case. I mean,
was your life like, what was the closest in this case specifically? I'm sure we can talk about other cases as well a little later, but this case specifically, at what point did you feel like, oh, it's up, they got us, like we got found out, my life is being threatened, that you were the most scared?
In this case, it never really happened. And understand this is sort of the swan song. I'm working 3 cases. I'm working a Vietnamese gang case. I'm a 55-year-old white guy that's crippled. Why Vietnamese gang members are dealing with me, but eventually 10 gang members were indicted for selling me meth and ecstasy. I'm working the NAMBLA case where we convict 8 members of the group's inner circle, and I'm working this case. So by this time, I'm confident to the point of being cocky about what's going to happen and how I can handle it, and I can probably talk my way in or out of anything. So I never really had it. There was one funny time when we were at the warehouse, and my warehouse was 2 hours from home. So it was a long drive, and LA traffic is maybe not as bad as your traffic. I was in your traffic last night and it was pretty bad, but so it was like, damn, let's just go, so the bad guys were in my or John was in my warehouse, and I think he'd brought somebody, and it's like, let's go. There was some guy sitting at the end of the street in like a 4-door car, an American-made 4-door car. that looked like a cop or FBI or something. And they wouldn't leave. And I wanted to say, guys, I'm FBI. I know that's not an FBI agent. I don't know who he is, but you can go. They're not going to follow you out of here. And we had to stay for like another hour and a half before that car left, and they would leave. But not that that was even dangerous, but it was just kind of one of those things. My wife will still bring this up. My wife is a gem. I don't know why she's put up with me for all these years, but I do laugh that she's the same sweet girl that I married, and I've been like 12 different personalities. I mean, why not be married to me? You know, she'd go, I don't like you being a contract killer, and it's like, I'm going to be a next week. So just
I'll
wait.
take a contract killer.
Just wait. But there was one time when when we were getting ready to move to San Diego, because in the middle of this case, I was transferred to San Diego, what we called office of preference. So you put your name on a list, and then if you're at the top of the list and they have an opening, you can go down there. So San Diego opened up, and she was leaving her job as an administrator at the English as a second language program and was having a going away dinner, and everyone was honoring her. And so of course, I'm the loving husband that should be there. Well, it was Jenny's birthday party.
No.
So I had to go to the birthday party, and I'm the only Anglo. I mean, I'm the only white guy in this whole group, like the Quippewandai, and I'm the only white guy dealing with these people. And so I go to the birthday party while she was, rightfully so, upset that I wasn't there to accompany her as she's being honored by the people she works with. But I'm just taking pictures of everybody. So I'm the crazy round eye, and hold my crutch while I'm taking pictures of. So we have all these up close pictures of all the bad guys, and
wow.
And one of the pictures in fact, you can see it in this. This is one of the pictures I took, and I made a calendar. So that's Jenny, on the calendar there behind John.
Wow. Oh, this is John.
Yeah, that's John. Yes.
John Woo.
John Woo. Yeah. So we had.
Wow. I mean, this is just so crazy. So now when all this goes to court, everyone gets arrested.
Everyone gets arrested. Yeah. That weekend when, between the Newark agents and what they did and what we did, I know there were 77 indictments. I know I got arrested 3 times.
Yeah. How do you get arrested?
I would set up meetings. So it'd be like, hey, Mark, you and Christos want to meet me, let's meet over at the studio. And we're just sitting here chatting, and all of a sudden, freeze, FBI, everybody down on the ground. And it's like, oh, shoot, what's this? And, they would cuff all 3 of us and put us in cars and then drive us away and put you guys in separate interview rooms and uncuff me. And I go out the back door and go set up
another
more
meeting
meetings
with someone else.
Yeah. So
you had to sit there with John when he got arrested.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know with John, I think there were 4 or 5 of us in that one, but I'm kind of looking at him like, did you do this? I'm trying to look at him to make him think that he's the one. Yeah. That he's the one responsible for one of his people. 'Cause how could it be me? And I think, and I may be wrong, but I think he gave it up pretty easily once they started the interrogations.
Did they try to pin you for anything?
Yeah.
Like a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, how did that go?
Well, I wasn't there for the interview. I didn't.
But I'm sure in court you saw some of the stuff.
Well,
right?
John pled guilty, and there weren't too many trials. See, that's the beauty that I try to, when I talk to administrators. Man, the undercover is one of the best arrows you have in your quiver, because you use an informant, he's got baggage. You got a wiretap. They may mean that or they may not. But when you got an undercover agent that understands the element of the offense, and you're going face to face with the bad guy, essentially getting them to fill in the elements, you've got a solid case. And about the only thing they can do is somehow attack the undercover agent. And it very seldom works. I mean,
like entrapment, is that a possible?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they always try to raise entrapment. I mean, but again, it comes down, I apologize, it's not being Don Johnson. You know, it's Jenny explaining to me what ecstasy is and how it works and everything.
But you trying to facilitate the Supernote, that wouldn't classify as entrapment.
No. Oh, no. Because one, they were predisposed to do other crimes, but I just gave them the opportunity. You know, it wasn't, it kind of wasn't like, if you don't bring me the Supernote, we're going to kidnap your daughter, or, you know, even if I said, if you don't bring me the Supernote, I'm not going to deal with you again. That wouldn't be entrapment. And typically, and again, it depends on the jurisdiction, but if you're predisposed to commit crimes, it doesn't really matter what the crime is that you're committing. You know, it's almost like you can't be entrapped for selling heroin if you're a cocaine and crystal meth dealer.
I see. And for it to be entrapment, you have to kind of like restrict their ability to say no. So by using coercion to say, like, do this for me or else I'll do this to you, that would be entrapment, because then their will is kind of suspended.
Maybe a better example kind of would be one of the guys I was dealing with in the Vietnamese gang case. Our main target went out of the country. Well, I went to his brother and said, hey, you know, I can't remember the guy's name now. It's been a long time, but you know, your brother said he was going to get a kilo of meth for me, and I need that now. And he said, my brother's not here. I said, I know, but he said you would handle it for me. Well, I can't get a hold of him. I said, I need it now. And so he eventually went and got me the drugs that we needed. So maybe, you know, that was kind of close to entrapment. But as I recall, in that he had a prior conviction, so it you know, it wasn't. But it usually, I'm trying to think of a better example of real entrapment. But law enforcement, FBI, we just don't go out after innocent people.
You're trying to find people that are doing crime.
Yeah, they're doing.
They build the case.
I talk about it in my book, The Last Undercover, which I haven't talked. Did I tell you I wrote a book?
It's a beautiful book.
In The Last Undercover, I had a guy that was he said that he had 10 kilos of cocaine to sell, and then he ended up couldn't come up with it. And it was like, okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, it was like, move on. And I'm not going to force you to do it and everything. And then about a year later, he calls me and wants 2 people killed. So it was like, you know.
Wow.
So, but I mean, if you can't do it, you can't do it. And
yeah. So then this case goes to trial. It goes pretty easily. I imagine there's so much evidence.
We only had a couple
that pled innocent.
Yeah, the only
or not guilty.
Yeah, we had one of the main guys, Mr. Chen, who John Woo introduced me to. That was, we didn't even get into that aspect of the case, but part of that was we were going to build a meth lab in North Korea.
What?
Oh, did I forget to mention that?
Yeah. Wait. So how does that go?
So I'm rocking and rolling with the weapons, with the
drugs,
the money. They're seeing
around.
that I've got money and everything. So John Woo and Mr. Chen, I called him Mr. Chen because he didn't really have an anglicized first name, and we were sitting in his office, and he spoke very broken English. John isn't that easy to understand, but I can understand him. And they lay out these essentially blueprints for this manufacturing. They they want to build, through their connections, a meth lab in North Korea. And it's set out so that it will be 600 kilos of meth. I get 200 kilos. John and Mr. Chen get 200 kilos, and the North Korean government gets 200 kilos. The North Korean government will protect it. They will guarantee that it gets out of the country, but it's a one-time manufacturing, and then we have to turn over the plant to North Korea, and they're going to make it a laundry detergent factory. And they're explaining all this to me. And I have the same look you have right now, that, what, a laundry detergent factory? And I went back to my case agent and I said, Omar, does this make any sense to you? And he says, let me call DEA. And he contacted DEA that said, yeah, the same equipment that could make meth could make laundry detergent. So that's when, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to go to North Korea. I mean, this is like, okay, this is pretty cool if I can get to North Korea, but you can't get to North Korea. I mean, I guess Dennis Rodman got there, but with an American passport, you can't really get in there. So now we're going to I got screwed, but we were trying to buy a South American passport that someone introduced me to that could get it. I did get a counterfeit Chinese passport that they made for me. We haven't gotten into my name. So my first undercover name was Robert Jason Bourne. And this was...
Was it really?
Yeah. And this was before the movies. This was the Robert Ludlum book. So I always kept Bob as my first name because I didn't want you running in on the street and say, hey, Chuck, how you doing? It's good to have you on the podcast last week.
Yeah.
And it's like, or hey, Bob. And the bad guy says, I thought your name was Chuck. So I always kept Bob,
Robert.
but it was Bourne. And then my second undercover name was Robert William Wallace, Freedom from Braveheart. And then my third undercover name was Robert David Webb, which is Jason Bourne's real name if you watch any of the Bourne trilogy. So I have a passport. Someone snapped a picture. There's kind of like a secret museum at FBI headquarters, which I guess most people can't get into, and I haven't seen it, but somebody was in there and saw the counterfeit passport, and it's on display. So they took a picture of it and sent it to me, but there it is, my cute little picture and Robert David Webb.
But now if you're going on the behest of the North Korean government, if they know that you're going over there to like build this lab, why would they not grant you access? I think they probably could have, but I think they were just so suspicious of anybody other than Dennis Rodman that they weren't going to do it. So John, you know what? It comes back now that you mention that. John was a U.S. citizen, but he had two passports. He had a Chinese passport and a U.S. passport. And so we had decided, so I had paid for the counterfeit Chinese passport. But then someone else hooked me up with someone who was going to get me some passport in South America. And I don't remember, because I don't speak any foreign languages. So it's like, I can't really come across as a Colombian or something. And I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't. I don't know if a Canadian passport would have worked. I don't really know. But anyway, I couldn't get it. And the FBI wasn't going to let me go to North Korea anyway. But so we were, Mr. Chen was, one of his counts was this conspiracy to set up a meth lab. And of course, we couldn't set up, the U.S. government can't set up an illegal meth lab. But it was just so cool to think and to have them on tape saying that, yeah, this would be protected. I mean, it would have been so much fun to meet Korean officials that, building the meth lab and everything.
Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un,
wow.
Just sit there and meet them. And,
so when you were in court, did you have to look these guys in the face?
Oh yeah.
And what was that experience like? I mean, in this photo with John, you guys are buddy-buddy. You're wearing Santa hats. You're hanging out. You've worked together for years. I'm sure you're familiar with like who his family is. I'm sure he knows some things about your cover or maybe some real things about your life.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting in court across from him being like, yes, I'm the undercover. Like, do you remember the moment when he realized that you were the informant or that you were the felon?
He pled guilty. So
never happened.
And after he was arrested, I never saw him again.
So. What about some of the other people that didn't plead guilty that you saw?
In that case, Well, Mr. Chen, that didn't bother me. I didn't like him anyway.
Yeah.
So that didn't bother me.
Did you see the look on their face when they were like, now calling to the stand, the federal agent, and then you walk up and they were like...
It's interesting. In that case, actually, they all knew before I walked in. I mean, the term is discovery. When you have discovery, you turn over. The defense has all the tapes, all the transcripts, everything like that. So they knew. They knew pretty quickly that I was the undercover agent. So, with Chen, he never looked at me. He just kind of kept his head down, or never really looked at, never confronted me. I'm trying to think if I ever had somebody that really tried to glare me down. I really didn't go to court that often, just because there weren't that many guys that pled.
Much innocence, so much evidence
that pled not guilty, because there was just even most defense counsel say, look, you're better off with the evidence here. You're better off going in with a guilty plea and expressing a little bit of mea culpa, and then but if you went and say you're not guilty and not responsible, then you're going to get more years.
Yeah. So now you go home, all these guys get arrested, the case is closed.
Yeah.
You're not worried at all that these guys will send someone after you, like, yo, this guy set us up. They got 50 of our guys locked up in jail. They messed up our whole thing. Even guys over in China that are like, oh, our contacts all just got jammed up because of this one guy.
Yeah.
Let's go take him out.
Yeah, I mean, there was some worry. It was kind of funny, because the case, everybody's wrapped up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, on Monday, I'm getting calls from China because they can't find Mr. Chen. And I'm saying, I saw him Saturday night. I don't know what happened. I haven't seen him since Saturday night. Do you want to go into the story?
Please.
The rest?
That's why we're here.
So Jenny was coming on to me, and look at me. This face is not anything that you want to come on to. I mean,
wealthy man
with makeup, I'm like a 2.5 on a scale of 10.
I don't know about that.
So we ended up, I brought in an undercover girlfriend who was, she was very attractive. She was Filipino, great. I mean, she was an FBI agent, very attractive. Her husband was a doctor, and my love language is not gifts. I'm cheap, but hers is. So her husband would, buy her diamond tennis bracelet, and we'd meet that weekend, or we'd meet for dinner with the bad guys. And it wasn't every day she was with me, but occasionally she'd come with me, and she'd go, "Oh, honey, look what you bought me this weekend," and she would wear the diamond bracelet that her. And I always said, you're beyond me. I can't afford you. And so the way we wrapped this up, and it's a long story, and I got to go back to June, but headquarters, there was a urinating contest between Newark and Los Angeles, and headquarters said that I wasn't allowed to expend any more money, and I was livid. I mean, I'm driving my 2.5 hours from my warehouse back to my home, and my case agent's saying because of what happened, some administrative bureaucratic BS, we can't expend any more money. And I am literally using every word I learned in the Marine Corps and every word that I learned in my various undercover capacities. And all of a sudden it hits me, divorce. And so I came up with the idea that everybody liked Judy, and that my wife found out about Judy. She's suing me for divorce. She has frozen all of my assets, and I can only liquidate ordinary daily expenses. But the divorce will be final in August. And so it was like the Monday after we knew in June when everything was going to go down. So only in August, like I'm making this up, but like if August 21st is a Monday, that's when the divorce is final. So Newark, they had a great scam. They had a fake wedding with all their people and they arrested people. Well, I was having a divorce party at the Playboy Mansion, and Hugh Hefner didn't know about it. We didn't clear it, but we had guys coming over from China because they were going to go to the Playboy Mansion.
Literally at the Playboy Mansion.
Yeah, well, that's where they thought it was going to be, and because we arrested everybody. So on Monday when I get the phone call from China, I said, I don't know. I saw Mr. Chen. He was there Saturday night. I think he hooked up with a blonde, and I don't know, but I'll look for him. Well, I call my case agent. I said, I got guys from China calling me, and he contacts headquarters, and headquarters says, tell Bob not to do it. You know, they're trying to triangulate him. They want to kill him and all this. And I said, please put that in a memo that China is trying to triangulate me to kill me. But I guess getting back to the thing, I've never really worried about it. It just, people ask me now, it's like, I'm so freaking bored now. I wish somebody would come after me.
I mean, this is wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it was a great life. Like I said, the Forrest Gump of the FBI. It was a great life. I truly miss the undercover work. I don't miss the bureaucracy. I don't miss the courts. I don't miss, I don't even miss other agents, really. I mean, it wasn't kind of that squad room, locker room camaraderie.
Kind of your
I
case
was the
agent.
zero personality that, preferred to be on the high wire alone without a net.
Wow. And was there anything you did before you would do an undercover case that you kind of like did to prep? Was there ever like a ritual? Was there ever a thing that you did, like how you would dress? Would you practice?
No. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you would. I mean, I did a lot of research. I would go in, as again, coming back to Sun Tzu, he who knows himself and knows his enemy will succeed in 100 battles. So I wanted to know as much about the target of the investigation, enough about the violations so that I understood the elements, kind of what I needed him to say, where I needed him to go. I needed to know enough about my backstory that I was no longer Bob Hamer. I was Bob Wallace or Bob Bourne or Bob Webb, so that I could come up with that.
You had fake IDs for all the aliases?
Yeah. I had all that. I had the Bureau was pretty good about the backstopping, so that was good.
Wow.
But so I lived my cover. So I became when I turned it on, I was no longer Bob Hamer. Even my wife will go to some social gathering. She said, become somebody else because you're more fun when you're, kind of, you talk to people when you're undercover. When I go to a party now, I usually just
chill,
sit there, and it's like, these guys, they're not all that interesting.
And that is another episode of Camp with my good friend Bob Hamer, former undercover FBI operative. I mean, this guy's just a G. I mean, Operation Smoking Dragon. He was, at first I was like, dude, you don't need to be busting people for cigarettes. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're getting warheads? Okay, maybe I'm not the candy, like literal. Anyway, if you're interested in learning more about the FBI, about Bob's operations, the things that he's been up to, maybe even seeing some pictures from his operations that he shared with us, I would check out the newsletter. It's in the description. You can also hit this QR code right here. All that information will be right there, sent out 3 times a week. Super, super interesting stuff. And if you like this episode, I have a good feeling you're going to like the last episode we did with Bob. If you haven't seen it, it's right here. Click that in the description right now.